Haha, 6:59.
Well done.
That's not mine.
It's his.
All right, Mr. Mayor, can you hear us all right?
Yeah.
Lovely.
No, he's muted.
There, that's better.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we can.
All right.
I'm seeing a time of 7 o'clock here. Is it match there?
Yep.
Same time zone. We're good.
All right. All right. Well, it is 7 o'clock PM and I'll call this Berry City Council meeting to order on this Tuesday, March 28th at 7 PM. Council present tonight is Councilor Deering, Councilor Schambell, Councilor Booton, Councilor Lozon, Councilor Wazazak, and I think I saw Councilor Stockwell there too. Is that right?
Yep.
That's right.
Yep. Okay. And staff present and joining, I see City Manager Storella Castro, Clerk Treasurer Dawes, joining us online, Assistant City Manager Don Monahan, Planning Director Janet Shetney. Are there any other staff members that should be recognized?
Yes, we've got Jeff Bergeron in the audience. We've got Stephanie Caranta in the audience. We've got Rowdy Parker in the audience.
Thank you. Thank you, Carol.
Deputy
So
Fire
tonight's
Chief
agenda,
Joe Aldsworth.
I think that's a good idea.
Joe's online.
got it. Thanks, Janet. So tonight's agenda is available online and in the back of the room. This meeting has been publicly posted, is being recorded and subject to Vermont's open meeting law and the council's rules of procedure, which are available online. I'd like to offer a really warm welcome to all of our guests and members of the public that are joining us tonight, and to those joining us online, including me. Please keep in mind that the chat function should only be used for technical issues or difficulties. The city offers online access as a convenience, and the council will continue the meeting if any technical difficulties occur. And if it occurs on my end, Councilor Booton will take over as chair of the meeting. If you could raise your hand or signal if you'd like to be recognized, and I'd ask that Councilor Wazazak do a little bit of air traffic controlling, as he often does with people online and in the room, to help recognize people and make sure things go smoothly. I'll call on speakers in order, allowing those who haven't spoken yet to speak first and limiting time if necessary to do the city's business. Anyone who wishes to speak should state their name for the record. And if you have any questions about process or procedure, please ask and we will get it sorted. I want to thank everyone in advance for participating in a civil way. That brings us to the second item on the agenda, adjustments to the agenda. Manager Storella Castro, are there any adjustments?
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to request an adjustment. We have a lot of distinguished guests in the room, and I believe they're going to be honored by our neighboring town a little bit later tonight. So if there's no concerns, I'd like to move items 8A and 8B to immediately after adjustments to the agenda.
Cool.
No objections here. Any objections from council?
Seeing none.
All right. So that would take us to item 8A, moved up, a resolution honoring the Spalding High School girls hockey team on the occasion of winning the 2022-2023 State Division I Championship, sponsored by Councilor Deering and the city manager. Who would like to kick this off? Is it Councilor Deering?
I'd be more than happy to, and honored as well.
Oh, Councilman, I'm going to interrupt you there are some folks outside. Come on in for this. Squeeze in. We're all family. Just get in here. Go ahead, Councilor.
So this is a Berry City resolution number 2023-02, a resolution honoring the Spalding High School girls hockey team for winning the Division I state championship. Whereas the Spalding High School Crimson Tide girls team achieved excellence on Wednesday, March 8th, 2023, when they defeated Burlington Colchester by a score of 4-1 to win the Division I state championship at Gutterson Fieldhouse in Burlington, Vermont, bringing great joy and pride to the city of Berry. And whereas the victory was a total team effort, with the first two goals of the game scored by 8th graders Amelia Healy and Peyton LaPearl, and seniors Rebecca McKelvey and Hannah King, added tallies to support a 13 save performance by goalie Raina Long. And whereas the dominating victory in the state championship game put an exclamation point on a dominating 21-0-1 undefeated season for the Tide, during which they outscored their opponents 117-19 and posted 10 shutouts. And whereas Spalding continued its regular season dominance into the playoffs, convincingly winning both matches, outscoring opponents 11-1 and posting 1 shutout. And whereas the championship was a fitting end for the team's graduating seniors, Rebecca McKelvey, Molly Parker, Maddie Seaton, Hannah King, and Raina Long, who went 59, 4, and 2 since their freshman year. And whereas the team was led by head coach Dave Lawrence and assistant coaches Brian Wilkin, Ashley Pelkey, and Vicky Simmons, who have shown dedication and service to the Spalding High School athletic program and guided the team that brought the first Division I title of any kind to Spalding since 2010. Now therefore be it resolved by the Barre City Council that the members of the council commend the Spalding High School girls hockey team upon its Division I state championship and congratulates Avery Burke, Ruby Harrington, Gracie Lunt, Peyton LaPearl, Amelia Healy, Hannah King, Aubrey Tremblay, Kayla Moulton, Riley Pelletier, Bellarina Fontana, Molly Parker, Lainey Thayer, Ellie Parker, Allison French, Rebecca McKelvey, Lily Mayo, Maddie Seaton, and Raina Long. Head coach Dave Lawrence, assistant coaches Brian Wilkin, Ashley Pelkey, and Vika Simmons, team managers Maria Saldi and Amaria Pelletier. And be it further resolved that the City Council extends to each of the members of the 2022-2023 Spalding High School girls hockey team our sincerest wishes for their continuing success academically and athletically. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be placed in the permanent records of the City of Barre, and that a copy be transmitted to the members of the team, the coaching staff, and to Spalding High School. So we have one of these for all of you ladies.
Gonna give them out?
Is there a motion to
Go
approve
for
the
it.
resolution? Is there a motion to approve the
Come up here,
resolution?
Michael. Get him a little airtime, you
Come on
know?
up here. Come on. Form a line. You guys know how to do this with handshakes. I've seen it all season.
Do they have to be
Do we-
lined up in front of us?
do we need a
So they can have
motion?
their Photo op? I think they need a photo op.
I think you guys should all come on up here and have a photo opportunity with our city council.
This hardware.
And the hardware, yes.
All right, so you can just come on up, fill up around the camera. It'll be fine. Just don't kick it over. Or kick it over. That would also be fine. Fill up the whole thing. If someone in the back wants to hold up the trophy, great. No pressure. You can. I'd hold up a trophy if I had a trophy. I never got any trophies.
Come on, coaches too.
There you go.
Yeah, little sketch.
How did you get the resolution numbers? There's a process. You gave it to me. Didn't I? For these? I'm getting too old and I clearly need to retire.
Awesome. Big smile.
Jake has a cell phone.
Thanks, ladies.
We don't want you to leave without them.
Thank you guys. Great job this season, ladies. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm not as fast as you are.
So where's Mr. Lawrence? I saw him.
Right there.
Coach, he ain't getting off that easy.
Thought so, Dave.
Have a seat. No, have a seat right there. And just tell us about your team.
No pressure. They're just a very special group of kids is the best way to describe them. They were a lot of fun to coach. We ask a lot of them. We're pretty hard on them at times. Sometimes we have fun. Most of the time I think we have fun, but they're just special kids. They work really hard, and especially in a day and age where it's been tough on them, whether it was COVID and not being allowed to do a lot of things, or different pressures kids face today with social media and all these other things. It's a great outlet for them, and they treat each other like a family. They respect each other. Their parents have been great, and I'm just really proud of them. They're a special group of kids that I think have a bright future in whatever they do on the ice, in the classroom, at college, future jobs. They're winners on and off the ice, and I'm just really proud of all of them.
We're proud of them too, Coach.
Thank you.
Make the motion to approve the resolution?
Second. You know what?
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. And girls, if I could, you are just something special. I mean, I know the work, we watch it for 60 minutes, but we see the 600 minutes that goes into it and the hard work that goes into it. And I got to tell you, as a dad who watched his son win 2 back-to-back state championships and then a national championship in college football, your parents are so proud of you. Your town's so proud of you. When you do something like this, it lifts all of us up. So I just can't thank you enough for your dedication and for everything that you've done for Barry. And your moms and dads, sorry you got to sit in the stands for 3 hours and drive them everywhere, but that's just how it goes. But thank you.
Looks like Representative Anthony would like to speak.
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized for a brief moment?
Sure.
That's a yes. That's a yes, yes.
I just want the community and the team to know, I think they already know this, Representative Williams and myself have invited them to the State House at 9:30 on Friday morning, that's this Friday, to be recognized by the House with a resolution. Parents and community are all welcome. It's after all the people's house, so please do come. And we're so proud of you. The first team that I remember having an undefeated season as well as a state championship. So thank you, ladies.
Thank you. That's all there is. Sorry, we got nothing else.
No.
Sticking
Yeah,
around
they're
for our
sticking
next
for-
resolution.
Right.
Yes.
So item 8B.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, item 8B on the agenda.
Aren't we going back to, we did 8A and 8B?
Yes.
Nick?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
The next item is, definitely, and thanks to everyone for being there. I wish I could be there tonight at a conference in Boston. And if you want to stick around for the whole meeting, you're more than welcome. I think we're all right. So item B is another resolution recognizing the service of Rowdy Parker on the occasion of his retirement. City Manager Sterling Castro.
He's passed it off
Thank you,
to me.
Mayor. Clerk Dawes is going to read this.
Berry City Resolution 2023-03, a resolution recognizing the service of Rowdy Parker on the occasion of his retirement after more than 35 years of service to the city of Berry. Whereas Rowdy Parker was hired as a maintenance worker with the city of Barry in July 1987 and will be retiring on April 7, 2023 as the BOR foreperson after more than 35 years of dedicated service at the Civic Center facilities, city parks, and recreation areas. And whereas Rowdy has been a legend at the BOR, responsible for creating untold sheets of ice, making thousands of Zamboni runs, assisting with special event setups, and maintaining the pool filtration systems, demonstrating his vast knowledge base and value to the city. And whereas over his 35-plus year career, he was a friendly face to many recreational skaters, figure skaters, and hockey teams, many of whom now come to skate with their children on the best and fastest ice in central Vermont. And whereas the community's affection for Rowdy was most recently on display at the Gutterson Fieldhouse in Burlington, Vermont, where a cutout of his friendly face was plastered over the front of the Zamboni during the girls' hockey Division I state championship game won by Spalding High School. And whereas Rowdy took great pride in his work, preparing facilities for use by residents, and he played an integral role in upgrades to the BOR swimming pool, parks, and playgrounds, helping to ensure that generations to come will enjoy these recreation areas. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Barry City Council wishes Rowdy Parker the very best in his retirement and does hereby declare Friday, April 7, 2023 to be Rowdy Parker Appreciation Day, to express to Rowdy our most profound appreciation and sincere thank you for his 35-plus years of dedicated service, and wish him the very best in his retirement. And therefore be it resolved that a copy of this resolution be placed in the permanent records of the city of Barry, and that a copy be transmitted to Rowdy Parker by order of the city council. That's 28th day of March 2023. And I didn't look up because I would have cried.
The team would like to present you something, Rowdy, so I'll turn it over to Lydia.
Woo-hoo-hoo.
Oh, Rowdy, you're not getting off that easy. You know the drill. Get over there.
Dave will stay there for support.
You can do it, Rowdy.
I just want to give him
Coaches do.
Oh, well, it's been a long time. I love it up there. It's hard to say bye.
Well, don't. Retirement's overrated. Come back.
You don't have to.
Look, there's such a thing as volunteer Zamboni drivers.
I gotta put up with a lot of stuff. Well, that's all I can say now. Thank you.
Thank you, Rowdy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rowdy.
One more.
Yeah, please.
I think I can speak for Dave.
You gotta come up. You gotta sit, sorry. But the mic won't pick you up if you don't.
I think speaking with Dave too, we grew up playing hockey here in this community. We won state championships in 96 to 97 while we were here, and Rowdy was doing the ice then. And there's no better place to play hockey than the BOR. And it's because of that ice surface that he's managed to maintain for all of his years. And for that, we just appreciate you so much. I mean, you're always there, always willing to do what you need to do. When we ask you to do something, you're yes, let's go, let's do this. And fantastic, getting all those extra nets out on the ice for our goaltenders, and they're heavy too, right? I mean, so just, we're gonna miss you a lot at that place. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you very much for all your service.
Thank you, Rowdy.
Thanks, Rowdy. Do a picture with Rowdy real quick.
Put your jersey on, Rowdy.
Oh, yeah.
Do it.
Yeah, man. It's cold on that ice. Come on up.
Yeah, we got- we
Feel
gotta
free
get a
to
picture of
fill in the camera. Oh, it fits good.
Oh, sorry.
Oh. We'll be later.
No, turn around the other way, Rowdy.
8:30 now.
Yeah. Well, that's what made me think. Yeah.
Here, now, talking about JMT instead of waiting until the board.
Rowdy, thank you. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Drive safe to Berrytown.
Yeah, hope we don't get lost.
Hope you don't get lost either, Dave.
All right, Mr. Mayor, give it a couple seconds. People are milling and seething and leaving and. All right. Yeah. 7:20. Rowdy, when's your actual last day? Is it right now?
It's the 7th.
7th. Okay, the 14th.
14th? Oh, okay.
The resolution says the 7th.
Yeah.
Does it matter that the resolution says the 7th? No? Okay. Oh, okay. Well, maybe he'll change his mind again.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I think you're good. The team is filing out, so I think you're good to resume.
Thank you, Councilor Wazelzak, and we'll let the record show that that one was adopted by unanimous consent with no objections. So,
Oh, good.
so that takes us to visitors and communications. This is an opportunity for a member of the public or visitor to speak to an item that is not on the agenda tonight. If you'd like to address an item that is on the agenda, raise your hand as we take up that item of business. Are there any items for visitors and communications for the council tonight?
None in the room. Bye, Rowdy. Seeing none online, seeing none in the room.
All right, with none online and none in the room, that takes us to our consent agenda. We have several items on the consent agenda tonight. There's a regular city council meeting of Tuesday, March 14th, 2023. The minutes, we have warrants to ratify for the week of March 22, 2023. Approval of the city warrants for the week of March 29, 2023. Are there any licenses or permits, Clerk Dawes?
Yes, yep, we do have some licenses and permits. Food establishment, Mulligan's, fireworks for the Berry Partnership for the Heritage Festival, July 29. Entertainment license, Mulligan's for their annual license and the Berry Partnership for their annual license. Baked with Love, the Berry Pride event on June 10, 2023 in City Hall Park from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then the Rehab Gym on May 20th is holding a strength meet in the private parking lot behind the gym. All of those are included in the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Well, we
Wait,
haven't
there's
gotten through the
more.
list yet. There's still more, but I'm
Next
glad that
time.
we're getting the fireworks over now, so the rest of the meeting can be nice and smooth. The authorize the contract for Televate for dispatch staffing and training study. We have the contract for White and Burke for TIF tax increment financing consulting services. We have ratification of the application. Manager Strelick-Castro is prepared for the the Public Works Department is prepared for the fall 2022 V-Trans Transportation Alternative Grants. We have the authorization of planned purchase for public works vehicles, which I believe are up to $90,000 to fill an immediate need, and then acceptance of the FY24 municipal planning grant. And I would ask that that one be taken up separately, since I manage that program and would need to recuse myself on the city side. And also, just as a matter of disclosure, those funds are allocated across the state by Regional Planning Commission territory, and I do not score any applications from Central Vermont to avoid any potential conflict on the state side. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda except for item H?
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Counselor
Counselor
Wozniak.
Shambell and
Okay.
seconded by Wozniak.
Second by Wozniak. Any further
And
discussion?
if I may, Mayor, I just wanted to thank Carol Dawes and the manager for all of their work. Speaking directly to item E, for all of their work in getting the city's TIF district, getting that time extended. I recall a meeting not that long ago when we were told that it would never happen. And then we went to work, and Carol, you went to work, Nicholas, you went to work, and guess what? We made it happen.
We're in front of House Ways and Means tomorrow, so
We're
we're.
gonna make it happen. So thank you. I appreciate you.
Any further discussion for those consent agenda items? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. And Council Bruton, can you call the question for the consent agenda, item H?
Sure. We'll entertain a motion to accept the FY24 municipal planning grant.
So moved.
This
Discussion?
side gets.
No discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Councilor Bruton. That takes us to item 5, the city clerk and treasurer report.
All right. Who am I? What am I doing? All right. Just a few things. I've received confirmation from the school that the Berry Unified Union School District budget revote is scheduled for May 9th, which coincides with Berrytown's town meeting elections. Voting in Berry City will be at the old Labor Hall because the Civic Center complex is busy that day with the annual highway show. So we'll be at the old Labor Hall for the day. Ballots will be mailed out automatically to all of those who voted early absentee for the March 7th election. That's just under 600 people, and we're still accepting, obviously, requests for ballots to be mailed. So feel free to contact us anytime to request a ballot. They'll be mailed out as soon as they're available. My understanding is that they hope to approve a warning later this week. And as soon as they have their warning approved, then we'll be able to print and mail out the ballots. A final reminder that water and sewer bills are due by the end of this month, March 31st, which is Friday. So come on into the office or pay online or put them in the mail. They're fine as long as they have a US Post Office postmark with the date of the 31st or earlier. As Counselor Lozon mentioned, S94 is the bill that is in the legislature right now that would extend our TIF incurrence of debt window by 2 years. It has passed out of the Senate and is now in front of the House. And the manager and I are testifying in front of House Ways and Means tomorrow morning. So hoping that that continues its smooth sailing through the legislature. And the last thing I wanted to ask is, at our last meeting 2 weeks ago, council approved the coin drop schedule for this summer. One of the coin drop requests was from the Legion Post 10 baseball team. They have withdrawn their request, leaving a vacancy. And so we went to the first one on the waiting list, which ironically was from the Legion for their regular activities. So I bring forward to you a request to place the American Legion on the coin drop request list for that August 5th date as a replacement for the Legion Post 10 baseball team. I know that this hasn't been warned, and so we'll ratify it at our next meeting, but I would like the council to approve it this evening.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion. Is there a second? I
Yes,
see Counselor Stockwell. Any further discussion on that matter?
I'd just like to, I'd like to make sure that we have good publicity for the school revote. Like if we could do sandwich boards, like one outside City Hall,
it's
one
a
at the corner of
school
Granite.
item. We don't put any money into it. So whatever the school and the school board does
Never
for,
mind.
you could speak to a school board member.
I've already expressed my complete disdain for depressing the vote in Berry City.
So, but you'll
Sorry.
get the word out somehow.
Right, but that said, I mean, a 4x8 sheet of plywood painted white and lettered and placed in front of the doors at the auditorium might go a long way when someone drives up, and
We do.
just a friendly suggestion to our friendly neighborhood school board member.
Because we are voting in a different location, statute requires budget revotes to be in the same location unless it's not available, and in this case it isn't, but they do require signage. So we will make sure that there is signage up at the Civic Center that directs people to the Old Labor Hall. Plus, you know, I will certainly put stuff out on social media and Front Porch Forum, et cetera, so
Thank you.
things that don't cost the city money.
Counselor Booton had his hand up, and then I had a question.
No, I'm all set.
No, you're good. Okay, just on the American Legion coin drop, have they been asked if they want it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. They said no to the last one, so I was like, well, don't want to do this whole thing again.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I confirmed with them that they were still interested and that date worked for them, so.
So there's a motion and a second to amend the coin drop schedule as presented by Clerk Dawes. Any further discussion? All right, hearing and seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? The ayes have it. We'll put that up for ratification, so there's notice on the next agenda. Are there any further questions for Clerk Treasurer Dawes on our update?
Seeing none.
Hearing and seeing none, that takes us to the Liquor and Cannabis Control Board. Are there any items for liquor and cannabis control?
Yes, sent around a list of liquor licenses for approval in the packet that went out either yesterday or today. This is our first round of license renewals for this year. It included, the list I sent around included whether these establishments were getting a first class, second class, third class, outside consumption permit tobacco or tobacco substitute or tobacco substitute license. I'm not going to read off the whole grid, but I will let you know that the license holders that are up for approval this evening are Asian Gourmet, Bellicampo Food Products, Beverage Baron, the 2 Champlain Farm locations, the 2 Cumberland Farms locations, Denty's Market, the 2 Dollar General locations, Jiffy Mart, The Meltdown, Mr. Z's, Moutois, North End Deli Mart, and Walgreens. All require council approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor of approving those requests, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Abstain.
The ayes have it with one abstention noted from Councilor Booton. That takes us to our city manager's update. Manager Charlie Castro?
Thanks, Mayor. Couple updates for council. We've had some water main break activity this week. Unfortunately, DPW crews have been busy addressing main breaks on 62 and North Main Street on Saturday, Lawrence Avenue and South Berry Road on Monday. Crews worked into the night on Monday at the South Berry location to address that issue. A boil water notice was issued for that spot. It's limited, it's outside the city, but residents in that South Berry area of the break were impacted. It's been repaired. The water is back in those homes. The samples were taken this morning and delivered to the lab. And so fingers crossed, if we have a good result, we should be able to lift that boil water notice tomorrow morning. So for the folks impacted, to keep an eye on our website, on social media. We also did very targeted VT alerts to those residents because it was a very, like I said, targeted location. But thank you to the crews who worked really hard. I mean, this is tough work. This was the South Berry site was a state culvert that was sitting on our water pipe. We were there first. And so this is an unfortunate issue, but it's now addressed. Hopefully will not be an issue there.
And the state pays for it?
We hope so. Well, we broke their headwater, so we have to fix that. But yeah, it's unfortunately it was their, they were right on top of our pipes there. So we and that's Jeff, Janet, Don, and I met with representatives from the U.S. Department of Agriculture Rural Development last week regarding the ODD project from the Sanders congressionally directed spending money. So our first meeting with USDA on this project. This is a reminder, the Sanders grant provided $3.5 million. We have a 45% match, so we're looking to identify 2.8 to be complete and whole for that project. So we're looking at additional resources to finance the full picture on the project. Great advice and resources from USDA. We're looking at grants, we're looking at state funding, as we reminded USDA that this serves as a shelter in the winter, the warming shelter. So it's an evacuation shelter. It was used for vaccination. So state has some interest in this facility being up to grade. So lots of real good options here, but we certainly have some homework, and the team and I are looking to complete that funding picture, which we need to do by September of this year. A Garfield playground update. As you may recall from the capital improvement plan, the replacement of Garfield playground is in year one of that plan. And Stephanie, who's here today, she'll be hosting an informational meeting open to the public to gather input about how to replace that playground. So we want to know what people, and really mostly the kids, have to say about what to put back in that space. So that'll be Tuesday, April 4th at 6 p.m. and it's a Zoom meeting. It's noticed, it's available on our website. It'll be on social media for residents and interested folks who want to have a say about the future of Garfield. Please join Stephanie for that. Just a couple other quick notes. Street cleaning has begun. DPW crews were able to begin street cleaning a little bit ahead of schedule. So you may have seen them out there earlier this week and late last week. And also exciting, the paving bids are due tomorrow. So we will be opening those here at City Hall, and very, very excited for the agenda item on April 11th, our paving contract. That's all for me.
Thank you for that update, Manager. And have you gotten any envelopes for the bids yet? Just out of curiosity.
We do.
Oh, that's good news.
Very good.
And thanks also for getting that street sweeper out there. It seems like spring's coming earlier and earlier.
Yes.
So it's nice to see that. Are there any other questions for the manager?
Seeing none.
Hearing and seeing none, that takes us on to our first item of new business, which is the presentation and acceptance of an AED donation. And that's I don't have that acronym right, but it's a defibrillator, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So So there's no packet item for this council. This is really an opportunity really for us to thank Reynolds, who's been a great partner for us in the city with these devices. We purchased our AEDs from Reynolds for various city sites, and they have kindly donated a device that will be added to the pool for this summer. So I know I believe there's a representative from Reynolds here today, and they're going to be making the handoff to Jeff and Stephanie.
Can I ask your name for the record?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, my name is Brad Morris with Reynolds, and we just wanted to take the opportunity to provide the city of Barrie with a brand new Zoll AED, along with a cabinet, which is not here, but the cabinet and the AED will be on site at the Barrie City Pool. And it was a pleasure working with the city, and we're always willing to work with the local communities and provide life-saving equipment. So it's a great project, and enjoy working with you guys.
We certainly want to thank you. All the lifeguards are trained in AED, and we do hope that we never have to use it, but it's good to know that our chances of saving a life are drastically improved by this, and we know that Joe Aldsworth is on tonight. He played a big role.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
we're very grateful for it, and thank you very much.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
I'll add, we have one in the auditorium lobby. We have one at the BOR. And I just recently received one from Brad that I put the order in back in October. So we will have one in the meeting room in Alumni Hall also.
And there's one here.
And there's one here. So we're covered.
Yep.
Nicholas, would you take a picture of the three of them with the AEDs? That would be a lovely little thing.
Rather that than using it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ready?
Mouthful
1,
of
2,
jokes
3.
tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Positive social media. There you go. All right, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you much. I saw Joe turned his screen on. I didn't know if he wanted to add anything.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry I couldn't be there tonight. This has actually been a program that we started back in 2015 when we received designation as a heart-safe community. With that said, we've had a lot of folks asking how we could get more defibrillators into the city. Working with Reynolds, we were able to establish some special pricing. With that said, we've deployed 6 additional AEDs throughout the city, and Reynolds was gracious enough to donate this last one to the pool. We thought it was very fitting with the upfit of the pool and one of the things that we addressed. So I want to say thank you to Reynolds. They're really a great community partner, and if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be able to do this. So.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Aldsworth. And thanks to the Reynolds for that very generous donation. Is any other? Do we need to take action on this? No. Okay.
No action.
Just yeah. All right.
No, they grabbed it.
It's already locked away.
It's gone.
All right. So with that, that takes us to approval of our second round application form for the ARPA, American Recovery Act Community Innovation Fund. Manager Starla Castro.
Thanks, Mayor. So council, in the Friday packet, it had a memo and a form that looking to send out to applicants for the Community Innovation Fund, as we've come to call it. This is the sort of the $200,000 pot of ARPA money that we put aside for groups that submitted letter of interest applications. The whole history, I know we've been through the whole history of this, but this was back in September. We put out a request. We received many applications. You have the item includes, actually the form includes all of the applicants that are pending. We've done, I think, a really good job of whittling that list down by finding a couple weeks ago, we found funding for Turning Point. And so they were an applicant for ARPA that no longer needs to use up ARPA funding. We funded the homeless shelter, the warming shelter at Aldrich Library was funded separately outside of ARPA. So we've done, I think, a good job of getting this list to be more manageable, but we know that there are very anxious folks who have submitted requests for funding who really want to get going on the next round of it. So this form, I believe, is responsive to the conversation we had last time we discussed it, and want to make sure, council, if there's any modifications, clarifications, any way we can make it better, certainly happy to. And then lastly, assuming this form is good to go, the timeframe we discussed last time on this topic was to have a completed second round application back to me for compilation for you then to review. And that would be by May 1st to me. And then we had as early as May 9th. I don't know, we'll be, there's the school board election that night. So I don't know, we'll be meeting May 9th, but around that time, we'd then come back to have the council review the materials and go from there. So that's really it. I mean, happy to take comments, any feedback. I want to make sure this form is clear and responsive to what council wants to know when you have to make the decisions about the allocations.
All right, I have a question. Does anyone else have? Okay. So the first thing, thank you for all the hyperlinks and all, and it being a live form, that is wonderful. One quick, the bottom of page 51 in the packet, which is the first page of the application, section 3, project details, ARPA's one-time funding. That first box, I certify that no ARPA community innovation funds will not support recurring or operational expenses. Yeah.
Thank you. That's a
Yeah,
great.
I
was making sure you read the form. That was
Thank
cool.
you. No, of course, yeah. And then I think just like a quick sentence in that first chunk of text at the very top of the form that says like, if you have questions, call Nicholas or Rick or whoever is gonna. I'm not trying to like make the staff hold the hand of whoever's trying to figure this
fine.
out, but
And this is a limited universe of people, so
Right,
I have
exactly.
no problem with that.
Yep. So that was the only two things I had.
Thank you.
Great catches. Any other questions, comments on the application?
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve as presented. Is there any further discussion?
Just wanted to be clear, so to you by May 1st?
By
give
May
or-
1st, yeah.
Give or take to the council by
Exactly.
the middle of the month, May 15th,
Right.
give or take? Okay.
Exactly. Yes,
Yep.
sir.
Just to manage that. Thank you.
Great. And with that, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries, and we'll be looking for those second round applications in May. That takes us to a request to have Berry City placed on the next Green Mountain Transit agenda to discuss recent service cuts. Handing that over to Councilor Wozniak, noting we have our Green Mountain Transit board rep here, Christian Meyer. And I'm looking to see if
Yes, Mr. Clark is in the room, I believe. is
Oh,
where you're
great,
going.
wonderful. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mr. Clark, for coming. Thank you, Christian, for coming as well. So I just want to give both the community and the council just some context for what's happening. There was a GMT board meeting, I think that was only last week, where multiple members of the council, some community members came in to talk about the service cuts that Barry's experienced in the past couple of years. There was a miscommunication where some members of the community felt they were denied a place on the agenda of GMT. It then came to our attention at the board meeting last week that it takes a municipality like officially requesting space on the agenda to get on GMT's board agenda, which is a policy that they have. So this is that next step. It's the municipality just officially asking to be placed on the board agenda and via email, as y'all have probably seen, Mr. Clark has confirmed that will be on the next agenda for April. And, you know, after talking, all the conversations that we've had about this over the past couple months, some of my goals for that day would be to talk about a plan for the restoration of services, start the process of board membership for Berry City, discuss ways that we can work together to restore that service, and underscoring that, you know, it's easy. It's one thing to have folks show up at visitors and communications, public comment and say it, but I also think it really underscores that this is something that has the attention of the entire municipality and the community. And, you know, I appreciated the testimony that you offered, Mr. Clark, in writing, and there's a lot to build on there, I think. And I'd welcome any comments, but I also want to, we're requesting time on the agenda, so I think the discussion, out of respect for their time, we should have as much of that discussion at that agenda item as possible and not get too into the weeds tonight, I think is the best way forward. So I don't know whether, Mr. Mayor, you want me to turn it over to Mr. Clark or?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. Thanks, Councilor Wozniak. And appreciation to Mr. Clark for the nice letter that broke down certain questions, and I think it answers quite a few questions. But as Councilor Wozniak noted, the council would like the opportunity to address the full board.
Absolutely. So good evening, everybody. It's really glad to be here. I'm a former Barrytown resident, so spent 7 years in this community and feel a strong connection to it. And so happy to be here. So I've been the general manager since January, and one of the things I have to thank you all for is that this issue of the reduction in service probably would not have been on my plate to think about if it wasn't for you all raising the issue to me. And I'm glad that we're going to have an opportunity at our April board meeting to welcome the city there, to discuss where we're at, and to come up with strategies for what a return to service would look like. I can tell you that I'm excited about the prospect of Berry City becoming a full member. I think that would be a wonderful thing, although I also recognize that the way the statute is written, that there's sort of a significant financial disincentive for you all. So I understand that you would want to take that into consideration, because it would require a lot more annual appropriations towards GMT. And but then it gives you full access to, you're on the board and a full member as far as making decisions for how GMT operates in its communities. I can tell you that our hope is that we have the service restored as quickly as possible. It really is a staffing issue. It is something where we had 20% of our drivers in our Berlin operation. That's where the headquarters is in Berlin. 20% of our drivers retired over a 2-month period last year. We've only been able to get 2 back. There's a nationwide shortage of CDL drivers. One of the things that I've recognized, even though I've only been here for a little over 2 months, is that our traditional methods of operating, where we drive these huge buses around both in the Burlington area and in the rural areas, it doesn't make much sense when we can't recruit CDL drivers. And so I know that that's something that I'll be looking at. And I think that was raised as a point, which I totally agree with. My hope is, I think that the thing that's going to be the most helpful for getting the service restored actually is a partnership that we are entering into with Community Rides Vermont, or actually Capstone, to create Community Rides Vermont, because if they are able to have better luck with recruiting, they have the potential of taking on some of the work that our CDL drivers are doing now, which would allow them to get back to fixed route. And I can tell you that, looking at our inventory and the way we have envisioned service in Washington County, it is largely through fixed routes. That's why we have the big 25-foot buses. And so we are just not outfitted as well for the on-demand services that traditionally have been performed by volunteers. And so volunteers is actually another way that if Berry City was able to find folks that were willing to volunteer to be drivers, that would also be helpful. So happy to work with you all. Happy to get the service restored. I mentioned that we have a new rural operations director that will be coming, and we haven't had a rural operations director in a long time. And not to be critical of folks in the past, but I think that not having a director that was focused on operations in Washington County, I think it shows. And so I'm happy to get that person back. And it's a person that previously served as the rural operations director. We loaned him to V-Trans for 7 years, and he's going to come back with a lot more skill sets that will be super helpful for us in providing the best service to the area.
I just also want to express appreciation for the fact that a lot of this happened before your tenure. And so I appreciate the communication.
Thank you so much for that update. Could you just elaborate a little bit more on what would be involved in being a volunteer driver? Did I hear that you would still need to be you need to be a CDL, right?
Oh, not at all.
No.
Our volunteer drivers use their own regular vehicles.
Okay.
And they drive folks around, and for some of the folks that use our on-demand service, they are wheelchair users, and so we'll continue to use the vehicles that are designed to carry wheelchairs. But for the on-demand travelers who are not wheelchair users, then we, just your regular old vehicle. And one of the things that surprised me is that we have all of these hoops that we have to jump through for our vehicles. But if you want to volunteer, you can use your 1973 Corolla, and that's fine by us, so it is kind of interesting.
So, Mr. Mayor, I have some hands in the room, but keep going.
Sure, and I'll just have one other question, then pivot. In calculating if the city of Barry were to become a board member of Green Mountain Transit, it appeared to me that it's based off the cost of the route, a percentage of the cost of providing the route. And I was curious how those are calculated, given that some of our routes cross through multiple municipalities.
Yep, the way that works is that then it's apportioned. So if you have, say, a route with 5 stops in Barry and 5 stops in Berlin, just for simple math, it would be a 50-50 apportionment, I think, is the way that would work. Our planning folks, if they're watching, are probably saying, no, that's not how it goes. But my understanding, 70 days in, that's how it's done.
All right, I saw Jesse and then Councilor Deering.
Well, unless you have questions for I do. Yeah, go ahead. So my first question is, who pays for the one Washington County board seat?
Who pays for it?
Yeah.
It's not paid for.
So to be a member of the board, you have to pay a due, essentially. You have to pay to play.
Yeah.
So for us to get a board seat, we need to pay to play. So who pays to play for the Washington County board seat?
For the rural seats, those are selected by the different planning commissions according to statute. And the reason for that was not to put any rural community in the position of having to put up the rather large local match. And so what you have with our Franklin County, the regional planning commission there picks 2 folks. In Washington County, we have folks. And so there is actually a vacancy for Washington County alternate on the board right now. And so those folks also have a vote. It will, I'm pretty sure that the way the law works is that there would be 2 votes for Washington County essentially if you became a member.
So who is exactly in charge of appointing the Washington County representative?
I think we mentioned that Christian, hi Christian, thank you for being here, is on the line. And Christian, I'm gonna turn that over to you.
Sure, hi, thank you. Christian Meyer, Executive Director with Central Vermont Regional Planning Commission. As stated, the Washington County representative to Green Mountain Transit. New to both those roles, but I can try to answer questions as clearly as possible. My understanding, and I'll have to check this for accuracy, is that the RPCs are appointed as that Washington County representative. So in that sense, I represent all of Washington County and including Berry City. So certainly going forward, I want to make sure we have a clear communication lines between all members, but this council and GMT.
Any other questions from council? Councilor Lozon?
So I've asked this question before, but it seems appropriate to ask it again. The reduction in the routes are directly a result of vacant positions. Correct. And as soon as those vacant positions are restored, hired, as soon as those positions are filled, those routes will be restored.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and we've budgeted for them in our next year's budget, and
Are they in this year's budget, sir?
Yes.
They're this year's and next year.
Exactly, yes.
So it's not a question of funding, it's
Not at all.
literally, if a CDL driver two CDL drivers walk through that door right now, and you said you're hired, those routes would be restored.
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep,
Clayton, thanks for being
manager.
here. Just a question of the scale. You said 20% of the drivers. I'm just curious what's the actual loss of the
That was
number of staff?
4 drivers left.
Four drivers left your employment.
Yes, and that was 20% of our drivers, and the
2 came back.
Gotten 2 replacements, correct.
So was service, when did the drivers return? When were the replacements hired?
They arrived before I arrived, so I don't know exactly.
So there's been some restoration.
Yes.
There's been some restoration since maybe we were first updated. Is that?
Yes, so since I think that
Since we first started talking about this issue, which was back in August, yeah.
Yes, since then, yes, absolutely, yeah. And we
Should
have
20, you're down 2.
Yes, it's
4
all,
is 20%, that's 20.
yes.
And you're down 2.
We're down 2. We have another one coming on board in April, and we have another retirement.
Oh.
We're doing a little dance, yeah. What our workforce, it's not as bad or I shouldn't say as bad. It's not, our workforce is reaching retirement age. And so we're very scared about the fact that, easily a third of our drivers could be departing in the next 4 years. And so that scares us.
Yep, I was waiting to see if council had any more questions.
I'm good.
Jesse?
So for the record, I'm Jesse Rosado. I'm just a resident from Merchant Street. And so I want to say, first of all, with all due respect to Clayton, he is coming in the middle of this. So that is important to note. I noticed that we have a Washington County representative from the board on the line. I don't know how new he is, but I just want to make clear, this is the first time we've seen a Washington County rep from GMT show up at one of these meetings. This has been ongoing since June of 2022. So we're looking at, I don't know, 9-10 months. And there's been multiple communications back and forth with the board and packets, with letters from the city, all kinds of things that have gone that way. And yet still no communication from the Washington County rep. So obviously we could use extra representation from Washington County rep on this board of governors for the thing. I hear what's happening here, like, okay, so there's problems at GMTA, problems staffing, problems retaining, problems hiring. And I get it, I empathize with that. But it's really like, that's the job of running GMT, is to to get that done, you know what I'm saying? And where my empathy grows even more is with the rider at the bus stop, okay? The person that is dealing with less than adequate city commuter service, the person that used to be able to get a ride to work or to school and now can't get that ride to work and school because the schedule has changed and the bus doesn't leave town until too late or not frequent enough, or, you know, a lot of people have different things. Or even the person who has sat back and said, you know, I'd really like to take this job, but it doesn't work with the bus schedule, you know, and that person, you know, now more than ever, we could, with inflation being what it is, with the supply chain being what it is, with, you know, sometimes people are 3 weeks out on like a spot on their mechanic's schedule. We could use this public transportation to be the safety net that it's supposed to be. We've made this investment to make sure it's there for folks. And so this is when we need it to be the strongest, and this is when it's been the weakest. So my empathy is with the riders. I don't see how going to the Board of Commissioners now will make any difference. I mean, originally, they didn't want us to be there. Austin Davis, 50% of the conversation I had on the phone with Austin Davis, chairman of the board, was don't come to our board. We're not set up to have people like this show up. Thank you for the 4 counselors and the city manager who did show up to that board. And part of me was like, when I heard that, I was like, man, we should come to that board, you know, just spite them. But like, that's not super efficient, or it's kind of petty, actually, and just calling myself out here. And so really, part of me starts to think about what else could possibly be said that hasn't already been said. What else could we possibly say to make a difference in GMT's situation and how they respond to this crisis, this commuter transportation crisis in Berry City that has been going on for 9 months? And so my favorite thing is if this council would do 3 things in lieu of going to the board of directors. One, you guys have done a great job at standing in solidarity with the riders and the people of this town that could use the service. And so I just hope that you guys will continue to be steadfast in doing that. Thank you very much for doing it so far. Super appreciative. Second is, I think we need to write another letter, but I don't think it should be to the board. I think this time we should just write the letter to the governor. He's the executive of the state. He has a secretary of transportation, and just laid out the letter. Hey, they're having problems at GMT. There's all kinds of issues. They could use extra support. Maybe your folks can like give them that support. Maybe your secretary of transportation can get involved and help the leadership over there. And that, in knowing Phil Scott, I think that, you know, I think that he'll get this issue. I think that he'll do a good job with getting the extra support to GMT, because clearly if GMT wanted to get this done or was prioritizing this, it would have happened by now. It's been 9 months. And the last thing is we need to raise awareness, public awareness about the issues at GMT. So we're organizing a picket at the Montpelier Transit Center. We spent millions of dollars to increase public transportation here in Washington County, the quality of public transportation in Washington County. And we've gone the opposite direction, the diametric opposite direction of that. And so I think we need to increase public awareness to say there's problems at this bus service. And my favorite thing is if the city leaders would show up in solidarity with those passengers on that right there, and show up and be a partner in this deal, and just be a voice to say, hey, look, we need to get this fixed. And hopefully those 3 things, there's 3 suggestions. They're new, not what we've already been trying. Because basically, you guys know that, I mean, I was going to read the minutes from the leadership committee. You guys all seen them. You know, it appears that we've been told to pound sand multiple times by GMT. They're a separate entity. We'll tell Barry how it works. We'll explain to them, you know, and this is like, we're not, like, all we want is our commuter service. The other day I sat at the gas station with a Special 53 bus. Anybody sees a Special 53 bus in town, I just want you to notice, like, is there anybody on that bus? I seen a special 53 bus fueling up at the gas station. I asked the guy, hey, are you on demand service? Yes, I am. How many passengers you give a ride to today? Four passengers that day. I didn't get into how long the shift was or any of that stuff, okay? But let me tell you how public transportation worked well for over a decade here in Berry City. They pick up a couple people at Tilden House, they pick up a few at the courthouse, they pick up someone over by Beverage Baron, they would drop and pick up at Price Chopper, drop and pick up in Montpelier, and they move people in bulk up and down the thing. The idea that that is not the priority really surprises me. 4 passengers, I mean, a supervisor could jump in the minivan and drive out and grab those 4 passengers. This is that kind of situation. So we can't wallow in the problems here. We got to get into the solution, find a solution to really like move this thing forward so we can get this bus service restored. So anyways, those are my thoughts. And again, I just want to say, I'm hopeful, Clayton, that I heard you. We're looking forward to restore this. I'm hopeful that you got it. I'm rooting for you. You're only here for 3 months, so I know you're walking into this thing, but this is not much different than what we heard from John Moore on August 2nd. It's not much different. And so let's, hopefully we can move this forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Josie.
Thank you very much, Josie.
And we had one more member of the public with his hand up.
Yeah, and just to clarify, the matter before the council is a request a meeting before the board of Green Mountain Transit, as proposed by Councilor Wazazak. So next member of the public.
I'm sorry, your name again?
is Connor.
Connor, and your last name, Connor?
Dwyer.
Thank you.
You gotta sit, Connor, the mic won't pick you up. No, next in the black chair. Thanks, Connor. Appreciate it.
It's not electrified. It's
There you go.
So, essentially, I'm only able to be here tonight because I don't have to rely on the bus service anymore. A few months ago, I was job searching. I couldn't take anything that I needed to rely on the bus for. I relied on the bus on and off for years. In Chittenden County, it was awesome. You know, I actually would take it down here. I would take it to Waterbury. I took it all the time. Now it doesn't even enter my mind or anybody else I know that I've had this conversation with that, oh, I can take that job because I can take the bus there. No, you can't. I was just on the GMTA's website. Last June, you guys said you started cutting services. And I think what's really illuminating about your attitude on this is coming in here and saying 20% of your drivers left, we got 2 back. Well, if you lost 4, that's 50% came back. Just the way you're saying the numbers, and you will hire people, but then you'll reinstate the service. Well, you've cut so many bus routes. What order are you going to start bringing them back? I was at the last board of directors meeting, and if Christian Myers, our Washington County Service representative, why aren't these things being talked about? Why isn't anybody have an actual concrete plan? We're going to get the city route, I think it's Route 89 going first, and then the Hospital Hill route. None of these things are even being discussed other than, we offer paid training. You can volunteer. These on-demand services, I know for a fact I can call and get a ride to a hospital appointment, but I can't go sit at a bus stop and take a bus to the hospital appointment. You guys have people sitting there for an hour. If it's more than an hour, they send another bus. But I just think, like I said, the only way I'm able to be here tonight is because I was able to drive myself. This isn't that rural of a community where everybody needs a car. It would be really nice, especially in the winter when I can't ride my bike, to be able to take the bus to work like I used to. And I think it's great to hear that these things will be restored, but what order? I feel that's an empty promise when there's no actual concrete plan on. I mean, it sounds like you just need 2 more drivers. What about all the drivers in Stowe that are doing the runs up to the mountain and stuff? So now that the ski season's over, are those people going to come on board? Are they able to take up those 2 other driving positions that you need?
One of them is decided to stay with us full time, and that's where the person coming on board in April is. The rest are.
So what route will be reinstated then?
I can't answer that right off the top of my head. I don't know, but we're also losing somebody that same month, so it's really just a wash. But the Stowe service is completely supported by seasonal drivers that are not allowed to operate in Washington County on fixed route.
I'm sorry, I thought Stowe wasn't Washington County.
On fixed route. Oh, yes, it's fixed route there, I'm sorry. But the Teamsters are the ones that have the contract to provide the service in Barre, Montpelier, Berlin. And the seasonal workforce in Stowe is non-union. They just come in December and they leave at the end of March.
What, are they going somewhere else? Are they going back to Florida? I mean, why can't they?
They're
How many drivers?
They're generally part-time folks whose big incentive for doing it is that they get free skiing or snowboarding, and so that's they work the mountain, and so that's where a lot of those drivers are there. We try to encourage them to come work for us, but
Specifically how? Do you offer sign-on bonuses? Do you offer pension matching?
I was just going to say, Mr. Dwyer, respectfully, this isn't an interrogation of
No,
Mr.
I
Clark.
just feel like we have all these questions that keep, I mean, this is the first time I've been here in person, but there's all these questions that don't even need an answer. I mean, we encourage them to do this. How? You know, if I just feel there are a lot of empty answers.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I think that that's one of the reasons why we intend to officially as a council, or at least I intend to ask the council to go to the board in a couple of weeks. That gives Mr. Clark and the board time to discuss this and hopefully have answers to some of those plans to be able to put those things in place. Because I agree with you that it's the same thing that we heard. Respectfully, Mr. Clark, and again, underscoring the fact that you've been in your position for 3 months, it's basically the same thing we heard back in August. And so I think that that's the intent of this request to get placed on the board's agenda, is to have time to talk about exactly these things. So thank you. Thank you. All right. Any other questions? All right, do we, Mr. Mayor, do we?
Yeah, is there a
Sorry,
motion?
Counselor Stockwell.
Sorry. So it's not possible to get a timeline? It's not possible to say this service will be restored by this date?
I mean, it's because it's dependent on staffing. If I were to pick a date, it would sort of be an empty promise, because first off, I'll restore it as soon as we have the staffing. And so I'm not going to pick a date out in the future and then not fill it if we can. We will fill it as soon as we can.
I have a question, if I may. And I think it's just really important. Why not get creative with how you're dealing with on-demand and get the resources back? Like, what's holding you back from getting a solution there?
Well, the thing to keep in mind is that we are obligated to provide this on-demand service. And yes, it may have been 4 people, but if that's a person getting dialysis, that's a pretty big deal. And so I think that, if we were to cut that service, you would have other people here that would say, why are you taking away my needed medical, transport?
Why not send a supervisor out with a minivan to grab that person?
Again, respectfully, it's not an interview interrogation.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to cut you off, but it's just not what this is set up for.
Yeah. And I'm thankful to the testimony that is advocating for the needs of Barre City residents, and also super thankful to our regional representative for being here tonight, as well as the general manager of Green Mountain Transit. I think it speaks to their attention to the issue and willingness to continue to have this conversation at an April meeting. And, I know there are times when I felt like Jesse about our assessor position, it's just, for the city, it's a critical city function, and we have really struggled to fill that position because of the fundamental shift in the labor market and those continued constraints. But I also hear that maybe if there are opportunities for innovation and partnership and trying to find a solution, I think Berry City wants to be at that table for partnerships and solutions and really get down to brass tacks about what it might mean to become a member and how much that's going to cost. But really appreciative for everybody focusing on this and being aware of the challenges it poses on a community with a good number of under-resourced people and just people, everyday people who depend on this service to get where they need to go, as you well know. And it's certainly your job to run the bus company, and we want to help support you in doing that and meeting the needs of Berry City residents and Central Vermont residents. So thank you everybody for the continued work on this.
And just last, do you, just for your policy, do you need a motion of the council to, or, okay. Okay, great.
So as long as you're here, so if there's a CDL driver watching this meeting by some miracle.
Absolutely.
That's not already a city employee.
What is the phone number? What is your starting salary? What do you offer for benefits? Sell the brand, dude.
Excellent. So if you go to ridegmt.com, you will see that we have some of the best benefits in the state. Our drivers pay 0% of their health insurance premium for them and their family. And it is primo coverage. I mean, we cover massages, for our health insurance. And the starting wage, and ironically, the starting wage in Washington County is higher than in Burlington. And it's $25 an hour. And we were able to make that adjustment through a negotiation with the Teamsters union that does rural transport. We have not been able to come to terms with the urban folks on raising rates yet because we haven't been able to agree what those would be. So they'll start at $25 an hour, and then after their probationary period, it will go up to $26.75.
So over $50,000 a year, full health insurance coverage, and they get to look at your beautiful face every day.
Absolutely, and it's a very beautiful face.
It doesn't get much better than that. No, seriously, look, this is a problem. We see it, I wonder sometimes if the post office isn't a self-fulfilling prophecy. I appreciate my postal guy so much. He is awesome. But as the Postal Service gets more challenged, more people say, well, I'm going to do this online, or I'm going to, and it's this self-fulfilling prophecy, and I don't want to see that here. I'm hopeful, I think if we continue to advocate for you and do the things that you wanted us to do, Jesse, I'm all for that. But I don't see, I don't see what point, I don't see what browbeating is going to accomplish. And the one thing that I've been waiting for, I saw it tonight when this young man, when Connor came in, I'm waiting to hear directly from the folks who are affected. Jesse, you've mentioned that, thankfully you've got your own vehicle now. And Connor mentioned that he can get himself around now. But, I'd be interested in some sort of poll or, and I said it a million times, some sort of Saturday morning meeting, Wednesday night meeting, I don't care, where folks can come in and say, well, this is how it's challenging me. This is, I can't take this job, or I can't go grocery shopping at this time when my children are in school. I mean, those stories are a lot more moving to me, quite frankly. And I wish you luck getting the CDL drivers. I'll do whatever I can to help you. Just gave you a little airtime.
I appreciate it.
And I wish you all luck and more fun. And I will attend the meeting, but it won't be to browbeat anybody. I'm sure you're doing everything you can.
I have 60 seconds to because Mr. Phillip, the council that was on, brought up a really great point, and I think it's super important. Connor coming in here tonight, this is a guy that's never been to a city council meeting. And so the people on the buses, these are folks that have a bunch of kids. They're trying to, they're in transition. They're working 2 jobs. I mean, that's, people have stopped me on the street to talk about this, but these are not the type of people that are going to walk into a city council. I promise you, these are not the people that are going to be the insiders of the legislature, the insiders of the council. They're really depending on us to do that for them. You know what I'm saying? Because that's just not their construction workers, they're entry-level job people, they're all kinds of different types of people, but they're not really city insider people. So kudos to Connor. I was glad that he showed up, and I wish that we could get 7 or 8 of them. But really, if you go out and talk to the folks at the bus stops, as I have, that's, you'll recognize right away. They're not the type of people that show up at a city council meeting.
Thank you for that point, Jesse. And in the interest of time, I do want to kind of move along, but I do think it speaks to how important it is to go to the people, not ask the people to come to you. And it'd be nice to, if there's an opportunity to learn more about the public outreach that is already being done by Green Mountain Transit or the Central Vermont Regional Planning Commission when it looks at the transportation plan, and potential outreach that we as a city could do at points of service, that might get us the type of feedback that Councilor Lozon feels is asking for. So with that, is there unanimous consent to join the GMT meeting on the April at the invitation of the general manager?
Yes.
No objections? All right. The camera's pointed in the other direction, so I can't see any.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Clark.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Jesse,
Thank you.
So that takes us to the next item on our agenda, which is discussion of next step on the prospective sale of the Wheelock House. And I'll hand that over to City Manager Shirley Castro.
Thanks, Mayor. And we have Michelle Hebert, our Realtor, joining us as well. So as I mentioned, there's no item also associated with this agenda action or item. There's no memo in the packet, I should say. We just a little bit of background for all of us and for the public watching. The council decided to list the Wheelock House and to accept prospective offers until Friday, March 10th. I'm proposing to invite a prospective purchaser or purchasers to our next council meeting on April 11th. Present their plans to the council in an executive session. We're having this session today so that Michelle, who's been our point of contact with the prospective purchasers, can hear what the council's questions are so that we can, Michelle and I, mostly Michelle, prepare them for how to come prepared to best address the questions you all have, the information you all want to hear, the data, the plans, all of that. So this is really an opportunity for Michelle to, for you to share with Michelle what she should be sharing with prospective purchasers who would be here 2 weeks from now in executive session to discuss their plans for the Wheelock House. So that's it for me. And I know the mayor shared something with some of his questions. I don't know, Mayor, if you want to.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Nicholas. Yeah, so some of the questions that I thought would be helpful to have ahead of time is just to understand the existing and anticipated revenue sources to help sustain building expenses, including insurance, buildings and ground maintenance, accounting, utilities, taxes, and the extent to which any taxpayer support would be expected to cover any of those expenses. Love to hear about renovation plans. I know some of that, just in general, I want to hear about everybody's renovation plans. If they'll pursue any tax stabilization to support renovations, if they're going to pursue downtown tax credits to support renovations, if they're going to agree to the property restriction to preserve the facade, which could be in the form of maybe an easement or deed restriction that the city could provide language for ahead of time. If they'd agree to a right of first refusal to sell the building back to the city at a price offered, adjusted for inflation, plus any actual cost of any improvements, or alternatively the appraised value if the purchaser can no longer remain in the building. Just a general explanation of how the offer represents the highest and best use as the city looks to grow downtown vitality, increase foot traffic and time spread of activities downtown, maintain buildings and facades, and grow the grand list and grow employment. On the public bidders offer, I was just curious if they've looked at other organizations experiencing owning any downtown real estate, prior organization's choice to divest, and any other example where a nonprofit executive director is the principal of LLC serving as the landlord, and how that might impact organization and board dynamics over time as personnel and board members change as a primarily city tax funded organization. And then last, if successful, how the new potential purchaser would welcome and support new businesses in Barry, even those that may have similar product classes, to create an even more welcoming, open and supported downtown real estate and commercial marketplace with shared prosperity as the primary goal, and not protectionism or any competitive exclusion. So those are mine.
Well, I think that about covers
That's
it.
a lot.
Phew. You could.
Can you send me that
email
list?
those. That would be great.
They were, just for the record, I know you didn't get them, but the council received an email like a little before, just, it's in your inbox.
Oh, it is.
Just-
Oh,
yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Got it.
So I have a question, but Counselor Deering had his hand up. Oh, you were good? Okay. So
I did, but I don't.
It-
That
Yes.
answered every question I could possibly have. Appreciate you, Mr. Mayor.
Love that. I still do have a question. I just want to sort of underscore for the publicly known bidder, the diversification of revenue streams. It's just, there's a lot of city dollars already there, so are we just paying ourselves, getting a refund on our tax check? And then for the other bidder, I know that this is not how business works, but I do not want to be having this conversation again in 5 years if something goes wrong. So I'd like to know if there is a plan for, I understand how naive this sounds, but like a 10-year plan for how they're going to survive in a downtown, in the industry that they are in, for a significant period of time, so we're not just back here again having the same, because I think we've had a conversation about the Wheelock building probably twice a year, every year since I was elected to the council, and I love the Wheelock building, but I'm a bit tired of talking about it all the time, so I'd like to have a decision that we can make that's going to nail this thing down for a significant period of time. So I don't know if that's a real question or more just a vibe, but if you could
No,
relay
it
that.
absolutely is, because anybody in business should have a business plan.
Right.
So maybe they can elaborate on that.
Great, thank you. All right, any other questions from the council? Councilor Booth?
So it sounds like what we're going to do is we're going to go into executive session, make a decision, then come out, and the public's not going to have an opportunity to weigh on it. Is that correct?
That's
Okay.
I don't envision it that way. I think we're gonna go into executive session to hear from the prospective purchasers, it'll be sort of a negotiation at that point, or could result in a negotiation. But this is not to say that on April 11th, the council has to come out of executive session and make a decision. There may be more deliberation. I think we'll have to wait to see really what the council's will is at that.
But I mean, obviously, I think that we should have like a public part of this, because I feel like there might be a lot of people that want to weigh on a public asset that isn't just a piece of land in East Montpelier, and this is really awkward with the feedback. It's not just a piece of land in Montpelier. There's like feelings towards that building. And some people have some really visceral feelings about it, not in a negative way, but.
Well, they can, Michael.
No, I know, I just.
That's why we publish an agenda. In order for the council to make a decision, it has to be published, it has to be on the agenda, and folks have a chance to come in and talk one way or the other, so.
But a presentation in executive session won't be the same.
Yeah, I'm a little weird about that. I'm not quite sure, I mean, I get it. If both offers fell apart and the council was having a dialogue with one or both of them, you could potentially put yourself at a disadvantage for future negotiations. So I do understand the rationale behind it, but like you, I mean, yeah, and I don't think that's the intention. I don't think the intention is that we're going to listen to them in executive session and not give the public a chance to weigh in. I mean, I'd certainly be opposed to that. So, we'll put it on the agenda, I imagine, in a week or maybe that night. I mean, nothing that says you couldn't have an executive session at 5 PM. And then, meet at 7 and have it on the agenda.
Just would like to see the presentation in the public.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see it much as a presentation. I mean, holy cow, we've seen the offers, hello. You can read it to me if you want, but I can read myself.
Manager respond, and then Dave Delcor has a question, presumably about open meeting law, and then Councilor Deering.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, this is not, this was not an RFP. This is a real estate listing that's subject to negotiation. I could imagine that the council may choose to counteroffer, may choose to provide additional conditions on one or either of the prospective purchasers. And so I think that I think our job is to get the best deal for the city, and that's not just money. I agree with that. I don't think it's just money. So it's to get the best deal for the city. And so I think the council can best do that if the council knows the full universe and is in a bargaining situation.
Mr. Delcor.
Yeah, I mean, I understand, I appreciate what Nicholas is saying in terms of, there are aspects of this that I can totally see in executive session, but it's hard for me to understand why this is what I'd like to do with your building would be something that happened behind closed doors. That seems like something that everybody should be able to hear and react to and bend your ears about, because, you're the people who have the decision about whether to sell their property. You can then take what you heard and go behind closed doors and say, hey, here's what we like about this one or that one, or maybe we should, see if we can get more out of them. Or, there is a negotiation aspect to it. I just don't see it in the presentation.
I think in response to that, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of a prospective bidder that may have a lease, may have employees, and entering a normal real estate negotiation. It could adversely impact them and potentially adversely impact the city's negotiation position if and potential decision set if they walk. So it might be something that we want to run by an attorney and make sure that we're doing the due diligence and making sure that we're respecting the open meeting law contract provisions, because this is both a real estate negotiation and there's an element of a contract, potential contract, since that I believe purchase and sale would fall under that category. So is that an approach the council and the manager would be comfortable with?
Just before that, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Deering had his hand up.
Yeah.
I have a question. Why can't we do a presentation style similar to how we did the city manager presentation with ARPA? That both city manager candidates came in, we gave them a guideline of what we expected from them, just as we're asking from the prospective owners of this building. We want to know kind of what you're going to do with the building and present it to the public, and then kind of get some information from the public, say, hey, what do we feel as a council? I think that to kind of give that public presentation is important, to give them the aspect to weigh in. That's my thought on it.
Manager, response?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Councilor, just one big difference there is that at least myself, I was aware and had to sort of consent and that my name was public at that point. So I think in this situation, the one prospective purchaser has not made themselves, known, and one or more others have not made themselves known, right? So I think that's one big difference that I assume the other manager candidate knew as well that that this would be a public situation for them, that they were entering to. I mean, my sense is that this is not an action that the council can decide in closed session. There will be, as Councilor Lozon said, an agenda item. There will be a formal council action on this. I think we're still at a negotiation point where to get the best possible situation for the city, it is helpful for that to happen behind closed doors so that the city is the one that knows what's at stake for it and can move from there.
Councilor Shambell and then Booton.
I have somewhat of an uneasy feeling about this whole thing because this was advertised, people in town have had full knowledge that the building is up for sale. There's been information in the press along the way that it's up for sale. I'd hate to see us getting into a position where we are almost, this is not the right word, but I'm going to use it, turning it into a game show where we have, now the public can come in and sort of at the last minute, take a shot at the whole thing.
It's been a public listing for some time.
Pardon?
It's been a public listing for some time.
Yeah.
There's a sign in the window. So it's not like you said, it's been.
So I think were we to do that, what we're gonna do is when and if we ever want other potential buyers or other people to negotiate with us, they don't want to do it. They don't want to touch us with a 10-foot pole because it's, in my opinion, we're kind of stepping out there and then pulling back, and it's like a breach of trust as far as I'm concerned.
Councilor Booton?
I guess it would be nice to know if there's another bidder, whether or not if there was, be interested in letting the information out.
I think we can ask any prospective purchasers that haven't made themselves public. I don't see, Michelle, I'm looking to you for any extra advice, but I don't think there's an issue.
Ask them. I mean, I see your point. I mean, it could be depending on somebody's position, anybody's position, and may not be something that they want to put out there. But I can certainly ask.
I mean, I still do believe that it could potentially hurt the city's bargaining position if all the other potential purchasers know what other potential purchasers are offering, and I know.
Not financially. I'm not suggesting financially when it comes to the money, the numbers.
Oh.
I'm just talking about like plans and structures.
Got it.
That's all. I apologize, I didn't explain that.
I've got it.
So I'll go and then call on Councilor. I didn't miss you, did I? Okay.
You did, that's all right.
Okay, I'll go, then Councilor Lozon and then Shambell. So yeah, no, I agree with the manager that like we can't, or we should not have this, this is a sale of city property and therefore the taxpayers have every right to weigh in here, but we can't just have it. Like these types of negotiations just do not happen completely in the open public with bidders knowing what the other one, like that's just not how this works. I think that the mayor is right that we should get a opinion from the city attorney as to, how much of a theoretical presentation would be covered by that negotiating contracts, real estate under open meeting law. I think it can't hurt to ask any other bidders if they would be willing to do some sort of public presentation, because I think that is a good idea. The idea of having, and if a bidder chooses not to, they choose not to, that's fine. But having some sort of public forum, or this being the public forum where any bidders say, hey, we're not getting into details here, but this is the general idea for what we want for this community space. I think that seems fine to me and seems to be a way that we could theoretically thread a couple needles here. So Councilor Lozon and then Shambell and then.
Thank you. I guess I'm a little more comfortable with it than maybe some of you are, because I've done it before. I presided, I was mayor when we chose Valerie as the owner of the firehouse. And at the time, Ariel Zevon, and it always works out for us, man, because Ariel ended up opening her shop down at 159 North Main. So I'm very comfortable with it, and I'm comfortable with giving, I mean, it's only going to become a game show if we let it. You know, the comments need to be respectful. I absolutely want to hear from people because it's every bit their building as it is ours. You know, it belongs to the city of Barry, not to the city council. So I'm comfortable with the process that you've laid out, Nicholas. And you know, I think people can come in and comment and make their views known. And I'm hopeful they can be respectful. And if they can't, we bounce them. You know?
Okay, so Counselor Shambell, and then Jesse, and then Craig online. And then,
So hearing it phrased the way Councillor Wozniak was phrasing it, in terms of letting people, instead of turning it into a forum of I want, it's, these are the two ways of looking at it. What I wonder though is, let's say we have 15 people here, and let's say by chance they all came out of interest. And let's say council is leaning in one direction and those 15 people say, well, no, I don't want that. Well, that's A, not representative of the whole city. And B, it again, in my opinion, and I'm not the business person that you are, but in my opinion, I think it potentially makes the city look hard to negotiate with.
Jesse?
Please do, come right over, plenty of room.
So, this is not my issue. I implicitly trust all of you to do the right thing. And you know, it sounds like, especially from what the mayor, how he started there, it sounds like you guys are on it. You know, there is a public interest because of the offer coming from the woman that runs the publicly funded organization. So people are like, wait, what's happening? Like, what, you know? I know that that's not like a huge deal, like, but it is like, it does kind of like feel like, wait, is this like an insider thing happening? You know what I'm saying? And I think that that does kind of come across, you know what I'm saying? And so, I wish you guys luck. I mean, we are just selling a piece of property. You know what I'm saying? Like, these things happen all the time. Like, hopefully everybody just like keeps it simple. But you know, just that one little tidbit that comes across does spark curiosity of the public. Like, what's happening at City Hall? You know what I'm saying? Like, and so I just want to offer that. Thanks.
Jesse, Craig Durham online.
Hi there, and hi, Michelle. Thank you for being there tonight. I'm the real estate agent representing, I guess, the unknown potential buyer. And I just wanted to say that they would be more than happy to, you know, make a presentation to the public if that's how this ends up playing out. Certainly not trying to be secretive about anything, and would be more than happy to share their plans for that space. And just a quick note too, it was the space, the building itself that sparked their interest. It's not as if this is some big company just, you know, moving in, looking to expand and grow. They love the building, the historic nature of it. So that is the draw. And that's the place where their interest starts. So I think, you know, everybody will be happy to see a presentation from both sides. And yeah, we're just happy to participate however we can.
Clerk Treasurer Dawes.
Counselor Lozon brought up the firehouse, and I actually chaired the committee that was, because I was on the council at that point in time. I chaired the committee that the city solicited bids for the purchase of and rehabilitation of the fire station. And We used a process that was actually pretty similar to what the manager has laid out, in that there were private interviews with the various people and organizations who had put in proposals, and where we could really dig in with questions, like the long list of questions that the mayor shared, which are all really great and will provide a lot of insight for the council. And coming out of that, we then had a public process where we had an opportunity for the council and the public to ask broader questions about, share your vision with us. What is it that you're hoping to do with the space? And that sort of two-part process really helped inform the council as to all the information they needed and any input from the public as far as what to move forward. Interestingly enough, the committee that I chaired suggested something different than what the council did, and the council accepted Valerie's proposal, and it's done nothing but be a huge success, so.
Any other questions from council? Otherwise, I'll look to the mayor for next steps. All right, Mr. Mayor.
Well, it sounds like there may be consensus, and correct me if I'm wrong, but to follow a model a little bit like the firehouse, perhaps where there's not saying that, to have any conversation that would be appropriate under law, to related to the real estate negotiation, and then enter a public presentation phase of the process, whereby people can be able to see the offers and weigh in with their legislative body. Is that an approach that the council would support and has enough clarity?
Yep, you're getting yeses in the room.
Okay. And Manager Strelly Castro, is that an approach that?
Yeah, I think that's great. I'm very glad the other realtor was here. We can, I think, work on it. I'll work with Michelle. We'll craft a process that will include both elements. So.
Great.
Cool. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Craig.
Great feedback from everybody. And Dave, thanks for keeping us honest. With that takes us to the next item on the agenda, unless there's any further comment on that matter. I think there is. That's the committee reset. And so this is a return to some unfinished business. Oh, I'm sorry, is there?
Nope, you're good.
Oh, okay. A return to some unfinished business, whereby the manager has done a lot of listening to staff, listening to committees, and as has council, we've had an opportunity to think about some different approaches. We've gotten feedback from the committee. Feedback's included in our packets, and I think we're hopefully getting closer to a good compromise position that meets the needs of city staff and some of the objectives that this project started out with, while also respecting the really important volunteer service and the contributions that volunteers make. And with that, Manager, do you have anything else you want to add, or as an introduction?
No, thank you, Mayor. I think you set it up very well. Just want to appreciate all the feedback that folks have submitted. I know that struck some chords with the original proposal, but I really appreciate everyone, weighing in, being respectful. And I think that, shared with council in your packet, the 3 committees that sort of officially weighed in, and you'll see that that's the Homelessness Task Force, the River Access Task Force, and the Cow Pasture Committee, and their requests, as you can see in the proposed mergers combination section of the memo, were all granted. So their feedback was received and heard. And other than that, I think there's a series of precedent/organizational type questions that would be good to get council's feedback on, and then we can, before we get into the actual mergers and combinations. And also just want to, I acknowledge it's not been easy for the the committees, the chairs, we've had to pause the appointments, which I know is not easy. They've had vacancies, and so I know it's been a hard process, but I hope it also lands us at a, you know, the goal is to get to a better place, and I think this gets us there. But really, ultimately, I think what we need is finality for the volunteers who put in so much time to this work.
So to break down some of the precedent questions and thinking about how to move forward, they're laid out in page, I think it's page 56 of the
Yes,
packet.
that's right.
So the first would be to acknowledge that the All-In for Berry task forces are not under the authority of the city. Does any city councilor not agree to that? Okay, no objections there. We can check that one off. So the next one is to revisit the conversation about council liaisons. This has been a suggestion from Clerk Dawes as a way to create greater accountability for the creation of the committees, but also to improve communication between the committee and city council. The thought here is that city councilors could serve as council liaisons to the committees and regional bodies, report back to council, and that we would, as a way of getting to the point where we all have some council liaison responsibilities, that we could use a standard form, and then council could rank their preferences to help us see where people want to be most, and then make appointments as a body. Is there any objection to that?
Seeing none.
All right, check. So the next one is for non-statutory city boards, committees, and commissions, that those will be staffed to the extent possible. So that means that, you know, for statutory committees, the DRB, the Planning Commission, the Animal Control Committee, the any other, I'm blanking on the other statutory committees, but that those will always be staffed, and that other bodies will be staffed to the extent possible, but that not all bodies will be staffed, and that is with the intent to achieve the objective of managing staff workloads and capacity beyond business hours, and that we further understand that staff, unstaffed committees, including task forces, will still be able to get municipal body training to support that work and normal assistance from posting agendas and minutes. Are there any objections to that? Including from staff?
Seeing none.
All right, okay. The next one is if any body doesn't like this proposal, and they want to create their own booster or friends of nonprofit entity, such as like the Friends of Berry Cemeteries, that the city council will provide or support in the form, in the administration, in the form of a micro grant up to $500 to help them set up a non-profit, and that would be from fundings from the committee expenses budget line. Is there any objection to allowing that for any committee that may not, that may want to become an independent body or an independent entity?
I think Councilor Lozon and I are about to ask similar questions, so go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd have to digest that more. It seems to add a layer of complexity when the whole reason we started this discussion was to simplify. And now we're encouraging folks to branch off on their own, create their own nonprofit, and be committee light or something. So I'm not crazy. It's not that I couldn't be talked into it, but didn't love it from the start.
I have a question, and then Councilor Stockwell. So just a framing, and then Councilor. Okay, great. Boom, boom, boom. Framing. The mayor just sort of framed those comments in the couch of this is for committees who don't like the reset, who want to do other things. Whereas I'm reading this as any committee that we have right now could choose to take the $500 and create a Friends of. So I'm just looking for clarity as to what's actually being proposed.
I think it was this would be more of a solution, I think, to someone who's unhappy with it. I think you're right, Counselor Wazazak, that the way it's written, it could be read both ways. But the intent was to find a pathway forward for any particular committee that wasn't content with the landing spot.
And a follow-up question is this, have you received feedback from anybody that is requesting this? No. Okay, thank you. Counselor Stockwell and then Booton.
I like the $500 as a better idea for supporting people who are getting organized for the chairs of the committees. To make that if they get the meeting minutes in, if they, pull themselves together and things are organized, that every chairperson of a committee should have access to that funds just to keep things organized, as an incentive to stay organized.
That's not the purpose
I know that's not the purpose of it, but I think we should do that.
of it.
I think we should change that.
Counselor Booton.
So it makes me think of the Friends of the Matheson, I think it's Friends of the Matheson Playground, which is not under the auspices of the city. And they do a fantastic job. And I think that, one, would that $500 cover them, which I probably not, given the current setup of it. But they do fantastic, well, I mean, we all know it's Ellen Sivert, right? Who does the majority of it. But the committee does an amazing job at getting things done at the playground. And I actually think that might be a model for some of our committees, is to branch off and to become their own entity. This way they can choose their own members, which we've heard committee members, committee chairs and members say that they don't want to have, certain members on their committee for whatever reason. And, they don't have to deal with the open meeting laws. They don't have to deal with something that we want, which is we want recording of those meetings, right? So the $500, it feels like we'll give you $500 if you go away, which, I'm not saying that's a problem, but I'm thinking, like the Matheson Playground, Friends of the Matheson Playground, they're already out there doing their own thing. Granted, they get support from us. So, but that's a model that the committees that are currently in-house could take. Just as a side note, I'm not overly opposed to the $500,000, but 500.
Well,
Whoops.
I'm gonna
Whoops.
form a committee. So, Mr. Mayor, I guess I'll look for.
Yeah, that budget just really went up. I think that the thinking behind this was really that it'd be about place-based committees, in recognition that we've had a lot that are dedicated to specific facilities, like the dog park, cow pasture, community gardens. Councilor Booton mentions Matheson Playground, Civic Center Auditorium, where the approach below that we're going to go through below really tries to keep everybody within the city structure. But if they still feel like the need to remain independent, there's another approach that they could take. And for all the points that Councilor Booton made better than I did.
So, go ahead.
Can I just ask another question regarding this? How much of a nightmare would it be for the $500 to stay within the city coffers? And they could do similar to what the Friends of the Matheson Playground do, and they reach out to the city and ask for certain things, and city council says, yeah, sure.
Well, I'm assuming that the original intent, as is written in the plan, is that the $500 is available to create the NPO.
Correct.
So that clearly wouldn't get to sit in our coffers, because it would have to be spent in the licensing fees.
But if we were to do it similar to that, where let's say the Matheson Playground Committee wanted the $500. And granted, they're not a city, but committee right now. But to have that.
That's just a completely different
Yep.
approach to that money. So I feel like we're conflating apples and pipe wrenches. So, I mean, it can be a different discussion, but it's, at the moment, it's not
Right.
this.
I get it.
I like that, apples and pipe wrenches, that's good. So I think that, so just one, something that Counselor Stockwell raised is money being directly available to committees. We already have that line item in the budget right now. If committees want access to money, they can, and there are some, I see multiple chairs on here, so if you want money, reach out to the city manager, because we have a line item for that. I think that I'm not okay with this as it's written right now, but I'm okay with the idea that the mayor and the manager are pitching as of the like, all right, if you are a current city body and you want to get out and you want to be a nonprofit and have more freedom, here's $500 and Godspeed. I don't see a problem with that. I just don't think that that is accurately reflected in how it's written right now.
So to put a hold, perhaps the thing to do is to put a hold on this and see after we've gotten to the point of a committee reset, if any are interested in it, and then we could take it up on a case by case basis. Would that make you more comfortable, Counselor Wazazak?
Yeah, I mean, yes, and I'm fine with what you and the manager have explained without any edits. I just don't think that that's what's written down.
I see, Erica Rail, you have your hand up?
Yeah, you were mentioning as a chair of a committee, this $500 is great, and Councilor Wozniak mentioned a line item for committees, and I think this is spectacular. This is the first I've heard of it, being a chair for committees for almost 11 years. It would be awesome if this could go for stipends for folks to be on committees and be more of incentives for folks to be on committees, more than just giving it out for folks to be, on different things. So that might be a suggestion for just stipend, for giving out for stipend, just a suggestion. Thanks.
Thank you, Erica. And again, I just think that that's apples and pipe wrenches again. Councilor Lozon?
Thank you. Yes, we consider this. I don't think I could consider giving people a stipend. I mean, $500 will barely organize a nonprofit, a 501c3. $125 to the Secretary of State. Then you've got a letter of determination that you actually have to pay for on pay.gov when you petition the Internal Revenue Service for recognition of your exemption. So, I could just see this proliferating. I could see it, again, we're trying to simplify things for the city staff, for the manager, for the clerk. And I could see Friends of Elmwood Cemetery popping up, Friends of Hope Cemetery, Friends of St. Monica Cemetery, Friends of the Dog Park. And then we have to start making choices, in terms of who's more important. I mean, our volunteer groups have always gotten it done, and they've gotten it done, without a $500, appropriation. And certainly if, like with the dog park, when the volunteers came along and said, look, we need $1,000 worth of supplies and we're going to provide the labor. Well, the labor was worth 4 times what the materials were. So we were all over that, and it worked out great for a number of years until unfortunately interest waned and the dog park got a little ratty looking. And now there is no more dog park. So, again, I like everything that you've done, Nicholas. I just prefer to keep it simple, because I think when you waive $500, we're just going to have a proliferation of requests, and it's going to get very complicated very fast.
Councilor Booton?
So I would say, given the comments that were made, we should just get rid of that one. Am I correct on that?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, it definitely sounds like, definitely put a hold on it and, but potentially eliminate it altogether. What I heard is that, Counselor Stockwell was interested in extending a stipend. Counselor Lozon and Wazazak are looking to not, offer, stipends, but to extend funding for more project-based activities. And this item really relates to, supporting break off nonprofits. So maybe we just put that one on hold and then see if any group maybe potentially be interested in it, and then loop back to that if that's the case, or would council be object to that?
I would just, I'm not objecting to it. I would just like to state for the record that I am completely in favor of stipends for municipal volunteers and making it more accessible to do this type of work. I just don't think that that's the conversation we're having.
No, that's not the item here. So, yeah. Objection though to putting this item on hold and then seeing if there's any demand for that.
That's good.
Good.
All right. So, and certainly stipends is something that we could loop back to as a future agenda item. So, or an amendment to this proposal. The next one is that all committees that the council chooses to combine will retain and transfer all current existing members and their term. The intent here is to minimize impact volunteers that combined committees, people can move over and that they won't lose their seat, and it won't put council in the position of having to go through some really tough appointment processes. Any
Sounds fine.
Nope. See none.
Okay. So then, over time, with combined committees that may have memberships above the normal 7 or 9 people, that the approach would be that committees would shrink to a standard maximum membership of 9 people as members resign. Is there any objection to that approach?
Councilor Booton has a question.
So when we say resign, does that resign or their term expires?
I would say it's a resignation.
Okay, just want to make sure. I'm fine with that then.
So then just, I'll go and then Councilor. So then like if we combine a body and it has 15 people and someone's term expires and has to be re-upped.
Yes.
They get grandfathered in.
Yes.
But we won't add anyone else to the body until it falls under 9?
Yes.
That is the intent.
That's the intent.
Councilor Deering, sorry.
I'd like to add the word removed next to resign. So if a member is removed or resigned, not that we're facing that issue, but in the event that in the foreseeable future we do see that issue, we can make sure that that is addressed as well.
Is there any objection to that?
No.
All right.
I wonder if, I'm curious as to what the rest of the council thinks. Should we wait for resignations, or should we just, when people's terms are up, you're done
Resignations.
till we get to 9?
I'd say resignations.
To
I mean,
what I said, or to what is?
To what you said.
Well, I'm-
Only because it
yeah.
would be very unfortunate if you had an incredibly active member who's
Just so
unfortunately, their
happened.
term just
Yeah.
happened to come up and it's like, okay, you're off the island.
Yeah, no, I'm good. Thank you.
And
All
I
right,
think
so if there's
we
no
let people
objection to
know-
that one.
1 second, Mr. Mayor.
If we let people know that, when we do this, this is the city's intent, you may find that there are a number of members who may be a little wishy-washy about continuing, and they may resign and get you to 9 or 7 or 5 or whatever the magic number is more quickly than you anticipated.
And then, so just following that same logic, there will also be a moratorium. This might just be a different version of what I said 2 minutes ago, but there will be a moratorium on appointing people to any committee that has more than 9.
Yes.
Okay. Good.
Right, if there's no objection to that, then the last one would be that the combined committees should hold an organizational meeting at their next meeting to select the chair, vice chair, and secretary clerk, and merge prior charges and duties into a single charge for ratification by council. Any objection to that?
Seeing none?
All right, so that takes us to the proposed combinations and mergers. The first one is the combination of the Transportation Advisory Committee and the Paz Routes and Trail Committee into a single Transportation and Public Works Committee. Is there an objection or any comment from the public to this approach?
Seeing none?
Okay, the next one is to combine the Cemetery and Parks, Community Garden, and Tree Stewardship Committee into a Cemeteries, Outdoor Recreation, and Conservation Committee, including the duties and responsibilities of a conservation committee established by statute and any relevant Vermont cemetery law. Is there any objection or comments from the public on this matter?
Not from the public that I'm seeing, but Counselor Booton has his hand up.
So I do see Giuliano Ceccanelli here. I know that he stopped me at in the middle of the parking lot at Price Chopper, and it sounded like he wanted the cemeteries and parks separated from that, which I would be okay with. But I will allow him to speak since he's here.
The way it's laid out, I think it's fine. I don't think there are any real issues with that combination. The only question I had was the 24 VSA 4505. That talks about a commission.
Yep.
A committee and a commission. So you might want to define what that is.
Giuliano, the city of Barry does not have a cemetery commission by our charter.
No. Well, it lists 4505, and that's the conservation, not it has not the cemetery, but the conservation committee.
Yeah, and I can answer that is that the intent is, and this motion would not create a conservation commission, but would assign the duties and responsibilities that a typical municipal conservation commission would have to this new body, the Cemeteries, Outdoor Recreation, and Conservation Committee, so that those elements of conservation, whether it be cemetery heritage, historic preservation, or natural resource work, that's incorporated as part of the charge.
So it would be defined as a committee, not a commission.
Correct.
Okay. I just don't want to get into the weeds of a commission type situation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Counselor Deering has a question.
We want to add the dog park committee to that. I know it's kind of been null and void. I think we even had them resign, or even I think we kind of talked about discontinuing the committee altogether last year.
We did.
Yes, Councilor, it was disbanded. I'm trying to find here. It was disbanded. Hold on.
So it doesn't exist
Doesn't
now.
exist.
Okay, great.
It was dissolved July 2022.
And just for clarity, I'm okay with the cemetery being in there.
Looks like we're good, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we're sailing. So the next one is to combine the Civic Center and Recreation Committee into a Buildings, Facilities, and Indoor Recreation Committee. So you can see there's a little bit of distinction between the parks and the indoor recreation facilities here with this approach. Is there any objection to that?
No.
Seeing none.
All right, and so the next one is to transfer all Energy Committee responsibilities, which is still in existence but has no members, to the Planning Commission, since it already has current statutory authority and responsibility for energy planning, while acknowledging that planning for renewable, sustainable, and affordable energy use is a cross-cutting issue affecting many municipal bodies. Any objections to that?
Did we have anybody apply for the Energy Committee? I think we did. Somebody had messaged me that they did.
How recently?
Let me check my emails.
Well, even so, I mean, the intent here is that we're eliminating an extra committee to reduce the staff burden and responsibility.
That's fine. I just,
Yeah, Counselor, I'm not aware of any, I know we've had some applications, I'm not aware of an Energy Committee application, and it is currently in it is as the memo notes currently entirely.
never mind then.
So the next one on the list is to transfer all Americans with Disability Act committee responsibilities, which I understand currently has no members, to the Diversity and Equity Committee, and that the manager will retain a staff officer with ADA compliance responsibilities. Are there any public comments related to this?
Counselor, well, hold on, sorry. Any non-council comments? All right, going once.
Councilor Lozon?
Counselor Lozon.
I just wanted to know the rationale. It seemed like the ADA committee, the charge of the ADA committee would fit more closely with buildings, facilities, and indoor recreation. I mean, I realize it's everything because it's, it's access to sidewalks and streets and.
Right.
So, it's a tough one, but it just seemed like the charge more closely aligned with some of our committees charged with more physical assets than
Yes.
than D&E.
And so this is a tough one. It could fit certainly in many places. It could also have fit Transportation Public Works, which is the one I think you're referencing, Councilor Lozon. The outdoor one as well. So I think out of a combination of imperfect choices, this one seemed to be it's going to be the sort of like less exclusionary of some of its other areas of focus.
Most all-encompassing.
There we go. Thank you, Councilor. So you're absolutely right. It's a little bit imperfect, but this seemed to be like the least imperfect placement.
Okay. Counselor Shambell and then Erica.
I heard from Joellen Mulvaney today about how, in her opinion, it would be an impossible combination. Now, I see that Joellen is up there. I'd like her to speak to it. I'd hate to see a committee compromise, but on the other hand, yeah, I understand why it would be put there.
All right, wow, so,
And it's
sorry.
also something that goes, just like you said, with everything.
Yeah.
So we'll jump to Joellen to answer the question and then back to Erica.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for taking this up. Actually, to be more specific, my concern is that the people that had been attracted to with their interest to the Diversity and Equity Committee were not necessarily attracted because of the ADA components. While I do see the logic behind combining the two, and I have no objection to that, my concern is this: we currently, there is no one left on that other committee, the ADA committee, so there would be no person who has that experience and that interest and many years of experience actually looking into the ADA issues who would serve on the committee, unless we do have an open seat, unless that open seat were reserved for someone who had either the skill set that would be appropriate for ADA or an interest in that. That was my concern, is that we really don't have, I mean, that's not the reason that people joined that committee. And since there would be no actual physical bodies of people coming to us from ADA, if that was the case, that there were some people coming and then, that other process would work out, it would be different. But that's my only concern, is that since we have an open seat, there needs to be maybe perhaps some kind of vetting process that would allow someone with the skill sets necessary for ADA compliance to be placed on the committee.
Thank you, Joellen, Erica, and then Counselor Booton.
Because the ADA is broken up into 5 titles, it's really hard to break it up into one committee. It's really a standalone committee because it's broken up into employment, buildings, transportation, telecommunications, and miscellaneous. So it's really hard to place it in one category. So you can place it in D&E, you can, diversity and equity, you can place it in transportation, you can place it in buildings, but it's really a standalone committee. But again, it's 5 different titles. So really, it's a standalone committee. It's not really one you can really place in a committee with other committees. That's just the way the ADA is. It's 5 different titles. Thank you.
Counselor Booton?
Yeah, I mean, as we're talking about combining committees, I'm sure the planning commission had, you know, the people that applied for the planning commission didn't plan to join it for energy, for the energy committee as well. So I think that the combining of the 2 committees, I mean, you're right, the committee members may not have planned for that, but going forward, as we put more people on there, they'll understand that's part of the option.
Since there is a vacancy, hopefully that will attract someone who's interested in ADA to come into D. Mr. Mayor?
I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna turn it back over to you.
Yeah, so I'm hearing from Council Lozon a potential interest in seeing ADA be part of the Buildings, Facilities, and Indoor Recreation Committee. Heard public feedback that it should be a standalone committee, and the proposal before from the manager and that I support, and is that to transfer all Americans, to transfer that to the D&E committee. So maybe we start with the proposal and see if there's consensus to do that. Is there any objection to the proposal?
Nope, we're good.
Okay, all right. That takes us to, of the remainder not transferred or combined, that we retain the remaining non-charter or non-statutory committees, including the Cow Pasture, the Homelessness Task Force, Diversity and Equity, and the Police Advisory Committee. So those remain untouched. Is there any objection to that?
No, I just had a question of, is that a comprehensive list?
Yes, that is.
Thank you.
And then since there any combination of the Board of Health and Animal Control Committee would take a charter revision, there is still a potential to create an efficiency there, since there is potential overlapping responsibilities. And I think both are required by statute, but would require modification of charter to combine them, just to consider that at a later date, not to lock the council in, but that we're open to discussing that when we go through charter discussion next time. Is there an objection to having that discussion in the future?
Discussion? No.
All right.
I have a lot to say about it.
We do have a question from Counselor Deering.
I just had a point.
Yep.
Order from the 4th point from the bottom, transfer all ADA committee to the diversity and equity. And then you have the next line down says, talking about retain the remaining, meaning the ones that haven't been transferred or combined. And we have diversity and equity in there as well. So I wasn't sure if we wanted to take that out of that second bullet point, because we are essentially changing that committee and making the ADA committee part of it.
Makes sense. Any objection to that?
Nope.
All right. And then, so there's no objection to the future discussion of Board of Health Animal Control Committee. The last one is to resume equal opportunity appointments for vacant seats and local and regional entities. And with that, that would land this with a motion.
Counselor Stockwell has a question.
If we had a governance committee, would that be a standalone?
Anything we create from now on would be a standalone.
My take is that it would be.
Okay, thank you.
Question, resume equal we officially repealed the policy, right?
No.
No.
Okay, so we're resuming, okay, we didn't do that, okay. So we're just resuming appointments
Like
under.
picking it up, yeah.
Okay, great, yeah, I was just looking for that.
And I would
thought
just, thank Councilor Wozniak, I think that's a great point. I was gonna mention, one of the items that, we'll need to do in that part of the organizational meetings that all the committees have is The council approved on August 2nd, all your appointments. And I've learned that some committees have changed membership. I don't know if Erica's still on, but for example, at one point she shared with me that certain members of the homelessness task force are not the members who are listed here. So I understand this was like right in the transition of when I started and Steve was getting this through. So there may have been my miscommunication, Steve's, I don't know whose it was, but that's one of the things we will have to do is these are the legally appointed members of every committee. On some committees, I know for homelessness task force is the case, there may be others. Maybe some of those have shifted, so council will have to ratify or reappoint or whatever the case may be to what the membership is now. So just on that point, on resuming reappointments, one of the things may be cleanup of what you approved and what is currently in place.
I saw Chris Russo Fraser, you turned on and unmuted, so I didn't know if you had anything to add for us.
Yeah, thank you. I actually don't know how to raise my hand. I didn't see that option at the bottom, but I just would like some clarification. Being with the Cow Pasture Stewardship Committee, I just want to make sure that I understand this correctly, that we're a non-statutory committee, and so we weren't combined with another committee, and so therefore we would proceed as a non-profit.
Nope, basically nothing is changing for you.
Okay, all right, thank you for that
Quick and dirty.
clarification. The other question that I had is this, that I think that I also heard that there was going to be the combination of the Cemetery, Parks and Tree Committee and the Conservation Committee. I don't think that there currently is a Conservation Committee.
No, that's Chris, it's gonna be combined into a Cemeteries, Outdoor Recreation and Conservation Committee. So conservation is this will be one new committee. You're right, there's no Conservation Committee now. This will be the name of the new committee.
And part of our mission with the Cow Pasture Committee is we are the only parcel of land, I think, that is zoned in the city as conservation. So I think that it's a bit of a conflict of interest, maybe. I don't know how that would work out, in that the cow pasture is the conservation land within the city. So that's a concern.
That's a great question, Chris. And some of the thinking behind that is that I understand that the Cow Pasture Committee didn't want to have a broader conservation responsibility, didn't want to look at Canales Park or private land conservation or other natural resource preservation, that you really wanted to just be focused on that parcel of land, but not have a broader charge citywide. Is that the case?
It seemed like that we were going to be taking on more responsibility, to say, with Canale Park, which is, I think, being maintained on its own. We do support a broader mission of more conservation land within the city. We think it's very important. But at this point in time, we just didn't have the capacity to take that on with the URSA grant being awarded soon. I think that wasn't part of the conversation within the committee. It's certainly something that we all believe in, that there needs to be more conserved land within the city. But I'm just thinking that it's a little bit of a different conversation than what we had before. With that said, we certainly didn't think that we had enough in common with the Cemetery and Parks and the Tree Committee. But I think if this is going to be a final vote tonight, I think that I would like to have a discussion with the committee again to see whether or not, given that we would, that there would be this other entity on conservation land, and if the committee would like to take that you know, out of all of the combinations, certainly the conservation land was a better fit for us. But you know, we just, with the committee that we have, didn't feel like we could be doing physically anything at Canales Park. You know, my understanding from looking at the city website that there's a local group within that neighborhood that kind of maintains that conserved parcel of land. And, you know, and at this point in time, there was no other conserved land within the city.
And thinking about a step forward based on this feedback, would it be something that if you go back to the committee and council approves this proposal tonight, that your committee might discuss becoming part of the cemetery's outdoor recreation and conservation committee?
No, yeah, I think that would not, I don't think that we would want to be combined. It would dilute our mission and our purpose with the conserved land that we're working with the cow pasture. I think that there's, I don't think it would be a good fit for our committee to be combined with the cemetery and parks and tree committee. But if perhaps, you know, the committee might discuss and decide that, well, you know, we could be a conservation committee with the cow pasture. I would like to present that as an option to the committee versus becoming a you know, just, yeah, I don't know how we would work or who would be on that other committee. I would think if someone wanted to be on a conservation committee, they would want to be on the cow pastures stewardship committee, because that's our mission, is conserved land. I hope I'm making myself clear.
Okay, so it sounds like you're interested in the conservation aspect of the proposed committee on cemeteries and outdoor recreation move down to be combined into your part of your committee's mission, and that you'd have a broader citywide responsibility with that. And I see the manager has his hand raised.
Yeah, and Chris, I just want to be really, really clear that I'm understanding, because the last proposal that was made was to create a cow pasture and open conservation lands committee. And the cow pasture committee wrote in opposition to that. So now I feel like I'm hearing the opposite. And I just want to make sure I'm completely understanding what you want, because I think this merger was in response to your letter, which we included in the packet, which was to really have a, you know, like I said, cow pasture and open conservation land. So I just, for real clarity for me, it would be helpful to know what, if I'm not understanding or if something changed, but that's what led to what we have tonight.
Okay, so, you know, perhaps I wasn't listening clearly, that the proposal was cow pasture and open conservation land. Is that the proposal?
No, Chris, that was the last proposal that, I guess I have to call it my
January.
proposal.
Yeah, so Chris.
The January proposal, yeah. So it was the proposal back then was for now I've lost, it was a cow pasture and open conservation lands committee. And the cow pasture committee considered that proposal at its January 19th meeting, and it opposed it very much. And so for very valid reasons, I might add. I just want to make sure I'm understanding, because I'm confused, because I thought I heard you say the opposite tonight. So I want to make sure we're being responsive, but the proposal that the council is looking at tonight was trying to take into account the feedback the cow pasture committee provided, which was to oppose something called the cow pasture and open conservation lands committee.
And I am sounding a little ambiguous there, but I guess I'm just wondering, since there's no conservation committee now, certainly I know in the past that we have had memberships, you know, that would have normally joined the cow pasture committee go to rec trails committee because of recruitment in that way. So I guess I don't know what kinds of I guess you could have the cemetery, parks and tree committee and combined with a conservation committee. And if somebody steps up to, be a member of that larger group. I guess there's no conflict of interest with the cow pasture committee. But I guess move forward as it is, just as proposed, so that the cow pasture committee would be a standalone, but we would not have to be a nonprofit. But that would be our mission, because I know that there would be a lot of hurdles to go through and additional work to become a nonprofit, as was mentioned earlier in the meeting. And I personally don't have the capacity and desire to do that. So as long as we can be left as is, and I guess it would be great for the city to have somebody else on a committee that is looking to conserve more lands within the city, because I think it's very important. So thank you, Nicholas, for kind of clarifying and helping me think this through. But yeah, I think that we would be pleased as a committee to continue with our mission with the Cow Pasture Stewardship Committee, especially moving forward in the next 2 years in meeting the expectations of the URSA grant within a 2-year period.
Thanks for talking us through that, and thanks for all the great work that your committee is doing in that space. And I know I'm excited to see the URSA grant and access improvements up that way. So, so with
Mr. Mayor, could I just add something? It's an addition to the committee, the way it's worded. So it's cemeteries and outdoors and conservation committee. Would it be possible just to leave it out for now and just flesh it out? Because our committee hasn't met yet, and maybe as it stands, no one's interested in doing that. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that feedback, Giuliano. However, we've had this in progress for more than 6 months, and although I understand your point that this is a newer proposal, but are you foreseeing that your committee would object to taking on given that you're already in charge of parks, but cemeteries, outdoor recreation, and conservation?
I don't know, because I honestly can't speak for the other committee members.
Mr. Mayor, we have Councilor Booton and then myself.
So I think I know what, once again, that's really weird. No, it's fine.
If you move it away from you, it'll be much
True,
better.
true.
I'll put it right off the
Yeah,
edge.
but can everybody else hear me? Oh, okay. I think what Chris is asking for is that she wants a carve out of the conservation part of the cow pasture committee. That would be, which is fine by me. And that's the conservation specifically of the cow pasture committee. And then the other, the cemetery, parks, all that other is.
No, we're not.
Oh,
We're not
okay.
laughing at you.
And then they would handle all the rest of the city. Am I correct on that, Chris? Is that kind of what you would like to see? About for the.
No, I think what I heard, there was the audio was not great from my end, but I just to be clear, I think at this point in time, I think conservation lands is our mission in the cow pasture specifically, but at this point in time, we don't have the capacity to look at other areas within the city and broaden our mission at this point in time, because we're just so focused on meeting the upcoming expectations of the URSA grant.
So that's what I just said, was that you would focus on conservation in the cow pasture.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's what you want. You want to carve out of that part of it.
Yes, please.
And I'm okay with that.
Yes.
Sounds good.
Okay, great. So I think, I just want to say, and I mean this with all due respect, Chris and Giuliano, I really feel we're kind of not arguing, but talking about semantics I think we're just sort of, there is no like legal, it's not like, you know, the planning commission. There is no legal, like, this is the conservation committee. This is what you must do. I think the understanding of the entire council is that the cow pasture committee will be complete, will continue to have complete reign and authority, for what it's worth, over the cow pasture. And as we are combining parks, our trees, our cemeteries, our community gardens, it makes sense that conservation is in that general conversation. And I also want to say that, like, we could vote on this tonight and then change it in 2 weeks. That's the will of the council. So I think we should, I'm going to now make the motion to approve the recommendations as presented by the manager. And if we hear feedback over the next couple of months that something's not working, the council can adjust.
Second.
Or we could wait until the 11th.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, or we could wait until the 11th, because this was presented as simply committee reset and not approval of committee reset. And that way it will give it, listen, and I would vote, if it said approval of, I would absolutely vote for it tonight. I think the manager's done a good job under difficult circumstances, and I'm surprised we've only had the limited pushback, quite frankly, that we've had. But I know that our cemetery commission, you know, they're one of our more active committees. And if Giuliano would like the courtesy of 2 weeks to poll his members, you know, I'm happy to give them that 2 weeks, but I will likely, unless something extraordinary comes up on April 11th, I would be, and I don't think you're implementing this like tomorrow, right? So unless something extraordinary comes up on April 11th, I will be voting for this on April 11th.
I'm sticking with my motion, but I understand.
Yeah, and I'm with Councilor Wozniak, and that we can, if we need to revisit in 2 weeks with a much narrower targeted scope conversation, that's fine. But to me, it seems semantics that just because the word approval isn't in the memo is very clear. It's posted with the agenda. It's in the packet. There's a recommended motion. There's nothing ambiguous about what's before the council here. So
Devil's in the details.
Well, there's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Seeing none.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Sounds like
we had an abstention from Councilor Geer.
Okay, so is that, so I'm an aye as well. So does that make 4?
Yeah, we had one abstention and no votes against, so.
Okay, all right. So that takes us to the next item on our agenda, which I'm scrolling up through 20 pages. I'm almost to number 1. It's committee reset, the approval of the strategic plan. So, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is round 2 with the full council with the strategic plan. We had a great conversation the first time around. Wanted to give everyone on council, this is a, you know, thicker document, lots to take in. So wanted to give, after we had a really good first conversation, wanted to give people an opportunity to digest it, take it in, and so that's what we're here for today. But I just want to say was, from my perspective, a really terrific process. I kind of came in a couple months after it had started, but a lot of work between counselors, the city staff, including several sessions with all-day sessions with Jim Burson, who's been helping us put this together. And I think you have here in the memo sort of the key takeaways, the 5 key goals in the 3-year strategic plan. I really want to turn it over to you for any discussion. Otherwise, would love to get this approved. Want this to become, you know, my philosophy. Just I'll share for what it's worth. Is I've been in a lot of places where a lot of these things sit on the shelf, and I really don't want this to sit on the shelf. I think there's a lot of good feedback and input in here, and so we'll find a way to make it not just part of our work with the department heads on a regular basis, but visually, you know, poster boards, just making sure that it's part of our what's guiding our work. So I probably said more than enough. Turn over to you.
So with that,
So you have your recommended action is to move to authorize the management to execute a contract with White and Bird.
Oh, God.
Consulting services. I
Yeah,
don't think
'cause
that's
I-
the right action you want for this one.
Geez, that's embarrassing. I recycle my memos.
I went through it and I really liked it. But I just wanted to make sure that we were authorizing the manager to do what he's supposed to.
So you don't have to authorize me to do anything. We're just really approving it. Yeah. But
So
I
is this
recycle
where we
memos.
offer comments?
Yes.
This is our chance? Okay. Page 5, we change where it says is financially sustainable to responsible and sustainable. Just seemed like a nice word.
I'm sorry, Counselor, you were.
Responsible and
Sorry
sustainable.
about that. Going down to
Any-
the 5th.
no objections to that? Is that?
Is financially responsible and sustainable.
Sustainably responsible. Responsibly sustainable.
Page 6, and I'll just go through quickly, where we talk about cost, third bullet point, likely to have a positive impact. There's a lot of, I realize you're talking about cost, but there are times where you have to measure projects on more than just the financial impact. There's a social impact, there's an equitable impact. And so I just wanted to cross out the word financial, even though I know you're talking about cost there. Is there
I
objection?
mean, it's fine with me. There's plenty of other pieces here that talk about the cost in that section, so.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't think it would really change things. Next page on 7, change 3 to become a great employer to just to be a great employer. Because I don't know that we're not a great employer now. We always have room for improvement, but I think I would, yeah. Page 8, where you talked about develop a TIF increment financing strategy and playbook for the city to simulate infill housing development. Is that possible? TIF districts don't exist outside. I've never, would we have to seek a general legislative specific? I mean, I've had that idea to go to the legislature with a specific housing TIF district, but I don't think it's. I think
Well, at
it's
the
more
moment, it's not an option. The legislature is considering creating project-based TIFs. And if they do, once our current TIF district is over, the city could apply for one. So, I mean, it's aspirational, but.
Do you advocate for something like that?
Oh, I'm loving them all over the place.
Right.
Council Lozon, should that play
I just
into our
want to
TIF
manage the
amendment?
expectations that there's no such thing.
Well, right, that's what I mean. So advocate, adding the words advocate for
okay.
the development of a.
Yeah.
Well, see, I disagree with that because I read that to mean that we're looking at potential TIF plan amendments. And those amendments would develop a strategy, and that strategy could include infill housing development versus new legislation, but it could also be new legislation. So maybe that we're both thinking about this from just different angles, but this language provides the flexibility.
Don't
for
have
both of us.
an objection to didn't have an objection to the sentence per se. It was just wanted to manage the expectations that as things are today, and I realize there's a number of amendments currently floating around the State House.
Just a couple.
But as things exist today, it's not you can't do a pocket TIF district. But then the third bullet point was a little troubling. Prioritize areas of the city to serve as special tax districts to develop necessary infrastructure. What does that mean? Like, because it's such an honor to own property in the downtown and do business in the downtown, we're going to tax you more? I'm out.
It's, an example is our charter allows us, we haven't, at least not in recent memory, but our charter allows us, if we're doing sidewalk improvements on a particular street, we can enter into a payment agreement with the properties that are served by that new sidewalk, where we split the cost. So it's creating sort of a cost sharing across that benefits both the city and the properties in question. So it's a similar kind of thing. It's like if the city were developing infrastructure that served just a small portion of the city, there could be a cost sharing option.
That's very different than a special tax district.
The special assessment district.
Yeah, I mean, that's way different. So what you just described is, yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I guess I look at this as, you know, there are a number of policy changes or policy commitments in this document. And I think a lot of them really require more discussion than, you know, 5 minutes of 10 on a Tuesday night and, you know, to push it forward. There's a lot of things in here. For example, changing our economic development model by bringing economic development responsibilities in-house. Maybe I'd like to have the discussion, but I'm not going to put it in a strategic plan because it's not my plan right now. It's something I'm absolutely willing to discuss. And a strategic plan is exactly that, a plan. So I'm looking at a number of things in this document that I can't support because it's not, hey, let's talk about this. This is a strategic plan that says, hey, we're going to do this. And, you know, dismantling barrier development of the Barrier Partnership, right now, that is the last thing on my radar. I'll talk about the opiate addiction, the opiate crisis. I'll talk about challenges that our elderly face. I'll talk about homelessness. I'll talk about our housing challenges. I'll talk about all those things before I'll talk about dismantling barrier area development and the Barrier Partnership.
Well, respectfully, neither one of those things are in here. I said neither one of those are not proposals contained within the strategic plan.
Well,
It's right here. I'm reading it.
It's
for
renegotiate.
Changing our economic development model by bringing economic development responsibilities in-house rather than shared with the town of Barry. Well,
I know, but that's different than saying we're abolishing BADC and the Barrier Partnership.
It does say renegotiate our
I
relationship.
live here too.
So in the interest, in recognition of your point, Council Lozon, that it is getting late. You know, and it sounds like you have some pretty substantial concerns. I'm not opposed to seeing this on a new, future agenda. But also want to acknowledge that certainly this council has had plenty of opportunities in multiple venues via email, via draft review, to provide comments. And so it is coming as a bit of a surprise to me that you have so much feedback so late in this process.
Wait, no, Colin, you're right out on that one. 3 weeks ago, I sat here and asked the manager, when would you like our comments? And he said, I'll be circling back in 2 weeks. It's been 3. I've been holding my comments. I wasn't asked to share them, you know. I thought we were a council. I thought we discussed things. So that's what I was waiting for. That opportunity was supposed to happen 2 weeks ago. It didn't, and I'm fine with that. We all get busy. This is when we said we would be talking about it. It just happened to be a longer meeting, so it's 5 minutes to 10.
So is there a motion?
Councilor Chambel has her hand up.
I propose we put it off in terms of the vote till the 11th. I'd rather not, but I think in deference to Councilor Lozon's wanting to have the discussion, and I do recall there wasn't really a discussion the last time. So unless there's a rush on this, is there?
Second. There's no rush. I will just comment that none of these words came from me or one person. This is a document that was created by everybody on this table, everybody sitting at this table, plus many of the people who are on the screen now. And it started in spring of 2022. So I just do want to mention it's, the first time the council saw this was not a couple weeks ago. This has been a working product for many, many months preceding my start here. So all of these words come from a collective effort that we've been engaged in for quite some time. That said, there's absolutely zero time frame. This is our own deadline.
And I did not make a motion. I said I propose.
So I'll make a motion.
Well, I don't understand why go through the formal process of tabling, but, you know.
I mean, we could spend like a Saturday conversation.
So is there unanimous consent to just have this on the agenda for the 11th?
No, Counselor Shambell has her hand up.
Okay.
It would be nice to have it earlier on the agenda. Give an allotted amount of time and then take the vote. Taking a Saturday or a totally different time after there has been.
We did take a Saturday, by the way. We had a Saturday.
I was going to say substantial time on this and substantial energy, and your point is well taken.
Oil cans.
About how this has been drafted over and over and over again. But
It's been around.
Oh, sorry, Counselor Deering.
I know that some of us served on the design team for this and have seen this document a lot, and others of us have not seen this document a lot. So with all due respect to Councilor Lozon, I completely understand where you're coming from in a lot of these questions and feel that having some time to think about them and to potentially contemplate what's going on might be important for somebody that was not involved in the process from day one. Speaking from the design team side, which I was on, as well as 2 counselors and even the mayor participated in, I think that some of our other counselors might need some extra time to give that time for consideration for all of the things that we would like our counselors to do. So while we have no set time frame or time limit while we're trying to push this, I think it would only be respectful to give that time to Councilor Lozon. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Deering. So is there a motion or unanimous consent to have this brought back on the 11th? What's the will?
Looking like unanimous consent.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll loop back to this on the 11th and give it some deliberation time.
Yes, roundtable.
I just realized I'm muted. So upcoming business. We put off the discussion of the kind of June barbecue date set just because this agenda was looking a little bit heavy, but it'd be fun to do some ward-based meetings, maybe even a downtown merchants meeting and mix with that as well, to get out in the community while the weather's nice and meet members in the neighborhood. I think Councilor Stockwell, you mentioned maybe wanting to have a discussion about Garfield Park issue, but that may interface with the outreach that's already happening. So definitely let the manager know. I think the D&E committee will have an advisory opinion ready on the IDEAL program for council at some point in April. And other than that, that's all I have. Are there other upcoming items, Nicholas, or members of council?
The paving contract, if all goes well tomorrow, could come on the 11th. Fees probably come on the 11th. The council approved a couple weeks ago sole source procurement for auditor, and I think that might be ready as well. And there's probably a handful here or there that I'm forgetting, but those are just off the top of the head, top of mind.
Cool. Okay. Anything else from council?
Counselor Stockwell.
Yes, I'd like to take another crack at the governance committee, but I'd like to take about a month to rewrite it and bring it back to council.
All right.
Let's foolish rush in.
And no, go ahead.
Oh, if there's no, I was just going to say if there's nothing else on upcoming business,
I have, yep, I have one piece of upcoming business on April 25th. Is that the meeting after? Yeah, April 25th. I'll be bringing forward a community investment ordinance that I've been working on with the manager. I'll make sure council has that well ahead of time.
Sounds great. And that's been with staff coordination?
Yes.
Got it.
That has involved, just so council knows, that has involved at least the city manager, the director of DPW, the HR director, the finance director, the clerk and treasurer, and presumably everybody else who works in city hall.
Anybody walking through the building,
Yeah,
would you
literally.
look at this?
Right. With that, Councilor Wozniak, do you want to run us through roundtable?
Sure, Councilor Deering.
And what a pleasure it was this evening to honor not only the Spalding Girls hockey team, but Rowdy. It's been a pleasure to watch them all season, from the filming aspect of CBT Sports. But to just see them at the Gutterson Field House and to perform the way they did, and for us to celebrate them like we had this evening, was just one of the beautiful moments of sitting on council. There are many things that we do that aren't always nice and positive, shall we say. But this was a very nice and positive event, and a memory that not only these young ladies will remember for the rest of their lives, but we will as well. So I hope that some of us can join them next Friday at 9 a.m. at the State House for the resolution.
This Friday.
No.
No, next
It
Friday.
is next Friday?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
9 a.m. Where they'll be honored. So what a blessing, and I'll pass that.
Councilor Shambell. Councilor Booton. Thank you for the chairs, and I will pass. Yeah. Councilor Stockwell.
I was looking at the Heritage Festival coming up, and I was thinking, the parade was good last year. I thought we did well in the parade, but I thought we should do a bathtub race. Of course, my technical skills in this area are endless, but I did think that with this, we could pull together and we could enter the bathtub race as a council. Yeah, I saw bathtubs. I know a bathtub when I see it.
All right, Councilor Lozon.
Council has won a bathtub race at the Heritage
And the
Festival
truck
before.
pull.
And the truck
Hey,
pull, right.
it's tax season. Something, I try to give two things that our residents might be able to take advantage of. Vermont actually has a child tax credit now. We never did before. It is a refundable credit. So just want to remind folks, even folks who don't normally file a tax return, if you have dependents, you can get up to $1,000 back per child, and that is a refundable credit. And the second thing is I'm constantly sad when I run into a resident who I help with a property tax rebate claim for the first time, and they have qualified for at least 10 years. So Carol is great about that in the city clerk's office. Stop one of your friendly counselors, but just make sure you take advantage of the programs that could help you, specifically the child tax credit and the property tax rebate. Thanks, I'm good.
And I'm more than happy, if people call the office, I can direct you exactly how to go through it, where to find the information on the My VTax website, where to find the information on your tax bill. We can help you out.
Mr. Mayor.
All right, and with that, I don't have a comfy seat. I'm sitting on the lobby of the hotel floor in Boston. So I didn't keep my roommate up tonight, but it's been a great Main Street America conference. I've seen Tracy, the partnerships director here. I've seen our former planning director, Josh Schwartz from Berry City. Great, as you tell, he's some great Berry history. And great crowd from Vermont and all over the country, learning about downtown vitality. So definitely a pleasure to get away. Thanks to Councilor Deering, our high school, school sports champion, for bringing that resolution. Thought that was awesome. It was too bad not to be there. And I will say, Councilor Stockwell called me while I was touring, and LGBTQ plus, the first in New England affordable housing project that is an incredible school renovation in Hyde Park in Boston. So really cool project, and I'm excited to come back to Barry and continue to be at the table. And with that, that takes us to our executive session for litigation. Is there any other matter that needs to come up in executive session, recognizing our time tonight?
Litigation and labor.
And
Litigation and labor.
personnel valuation of a public official.
Personnel, labor, and litigation.
Okay.
I'll move for findings.
Second?
Motion for findings in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Guys have it. I see, Mr.
Go
Delcor, you
into
have your hand raised?
executive session with the manager.
One
Yeah,
second.
Do you have any?
Hold on. Nicholas, hold on, sorry, Tom. Nicholas, are we expecting any action?
No action.
No action, Dave.
All right, thanks. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Night,
So-
Dave.
Sorry, go ahead, Tom.
There's a motion and a second to enter executive session. All those in favor say aye.
Wait. Okay, we're just gonna back up. Tom, can you reoffer the motion?
My motion was to enter executive session to discuss personnel and litigation.
And labor.
And labor. We're inviting the manager to attend as well.
And I second it.
There we go.
All right. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Guys have it. We're entering executive session.
Wait for it. Okay, now,
I will move to come out of executive session at 10:47.
seconded, and Mr. Mayor, just so you know, the manager is taking notes of this.
Okay, then my motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. We are adjourned at 10:46. Thanks, everybody.
Night, Jake.
Yep.